Welcome everyone. Welcome back to Pipe Up episode 3. My name is Grace and I'm here with Jiff.
How are we going, everyone?
I'm nervous.
Nervous?
I'm a bit scared. I'm not scared. I'm looking forward to the bulk of the episode today. Do you want to talk about what that is going to be today?
The bulk of today's episode, I think a lot of people already know, and they're all kind of looking forward to it. Forward, maybe, or as nervous as as you and I are about this one.
Yeah.
One of the things that I suppose was introduced to yourself and myself, Grace, recently was a book, and a book called the author Florence Given is her name, and the book itself is called "Women Don't Owe You Pretty." So if you've read this one, you may have some thoughts yourself. If not, we're going to try and, I suppose, have a chat about our experience reading through this book or listening through to the audio book there.
For sure.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. This one might go for a while.
Yeah.
which I'm not upset about.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's important I think it's good that we've chosen something that is probably aimed more towards like the feminist perspective. And I think offering like your perspective as a male listening to it, like a cis male listening to it, I think that's going to be a really interesting perspective. And I think it's going to be a topic that is going to be hard to address in some ways. But I think that's the whole point of these types of shows, is to kind of, express feelings about, it's not like life isn't sunshine and rainbows. So yeah, we're gonna maybe
and
cross
we've all got different minds and different preferences and different thoughts on things.
Yep.
And I think it's important to know that we may not agree on things,
but that's also okay. Like,
we're mature enough to have a discussion about that.
For sure.
Yeah. And I mean, even though I suppose the thing is, sometimes we may not agree on some things, but the discussion itself may sway someone another way.
Yeah, we might get some enlightenment from a different perspective.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yep. So
Cool.
That's why I was really looking forward to this one, simply because there's lots to unpack with this, and I think potentially we'll only be scratching the surface when we do start unpacking this.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we'll start. That's a little later in the show. So if you just want to hear
Stick around.
scrub forwards if you're listening to it. Otherwise, we're going to jump into our ups and downs of the week. Do you want to start with do you have ups or downs or?
I've got a bit of both.
Okay.
I might do my downs first, and then into the up.
Yep.
So for me, the down that I had, if you're following the Discord, you might know this, and if you're following the streams that I do in the mornings, you'll know this, because two or three, there are three. I think there were two of them that I had to bail on. Basically, I always have stories about the kids. That's good. It's good. It gives me content. But my lad actually copped a stick to the eye at school, and I was
from an
at
aggressor,
work.
not just like falling over.
No, it was an aggressor. Yeah, it was an aggressor. So
kids.
I got a call while I was at work, saying, and it's probably one of the worst calls you can get. My phone was buzzing a few times, and I'm like, oh, what is this? And I looked, and it was the school's number. Okay, so I pick it up, and they're like, Jeff, your son is waiting for an ambulance. So and like, what?
Oh my god, that's the last. It's like I can just imagine your heart just sank.
Yeah. So it's like, oh god. And then the next thing was like, these are the details. Can you come as soon as possible? And I work like probably an hour or so away drive from the school.
Shit.
So it's kind of like that. And then on the way, I was kind of trying to I suppose call other people that may be able to get there quicker, et cetera. And long story short, there was ambulances and sirens and transfers and yada. But I suppose the whole thing has culminated to a bunch of visits throughout this week to the hospital. And the upside to that downside story is that everything's cool. There's no retinal damage. The globe itself of the eyeball is intact. It's a little bit high pressure, which is probably the better of two evils. If it's low pressure, it means it's been punctured and there's stuff leaking.
Yep.
So if it's high pressure,
eyeballs leaking.
So if it's high pressure, it means it's still intact, but it's just a little bit damaged and inflamed. So that's very treatable.
Okay.
So that was the down. Did you want to speak about your down or up first, and then I can go into my up?
Yeah. So I was having a pretty good week, and then yesterday morning I came down just, getting ready for my stream, doing my morning routine. And there was I couldn't find the cats. I was like, where are the cats? What are they doing? I could hear a little bit of rustling, and I was like, where the hell are they? So I came downstairs and I saw a little plastic package thing, and I was like, what the heck is that? And it was one of those, the little white packages that have the balls inside to absorb moisture or whatever.
The silicon desiccant stuff.
Yeah. So one of those was on the ground, and I was like, where the hell did that come from? It was a big one. It wasn't a little one that comes in, the tortilla packets or anything. It was a massive one. I was like, what the and so then I looked at the floor, and there was the little balls everywhere, and I'm like, huh? And I've been finding these little balls every now and then on the ground. I'd step on it and be like, what is that? What is that from? And I look under the couch, and the cats have completely pulled out the underside of the couch, and they were inside it, living inside the bottom of the couch, and they'd ripped it all open and apart. And this is the first time. The cats are, Leo's now a year and a half, Momo just turned 1, and they have never touched the furniture ever. They've never scratched it. They've never torn it. They've never bit anything. This is the first time it's ever happened, and I lost my shit. I was just grabbed him, I put him in the laundry so I could clean it up, and I was just vacuuming, screaming, just being like, what the actual fuck? How is this my morning? What the? Oh, I was just freaking out, just screaming while I'm vacuuming. And it was pretty satisfying though, vacuuming up all the balls. You can imagine the sound, just all the tingling of the balls getting sucked up the vacuum. I was like, this is kind of satisfying, but also I'm fucking livid right now. And so I flipped the couch up on its end to see the damage, and the whole bottom was ripped under. So then I let people in the Discord know, hey, I'm not going to make stream on time, because I'm I got to make sure they can't fuck with it more while I'm streaming. So I got some alfoil and taped and pinned it to the bottom of it. So now whenever I sit on my couch, it makes an alfoil noise whenever I sit on it. So it's, life with cats.
Life with cats.
They both have 8 lives now.
Oh dear.
No, they're fine. I checked this morning, they haven't touched it overnight. So I think they learned their lesson. It's the first time I've ever seen Momo actually be scared of me. She's normally pretty nonchalant about everything. She's normally whatever, I'm not scared of you. But I was like, what the heck? And she was her ears were back, and she was like, whoa. So yeah, I was pretty upset.
Oh no.
Yeah. So that was probably my down for the week. You want to jump into your up of the week?
The up of the week, I think I may have mentioned this last week, ever since you gave the idea to do it. But the Discord workouts have been fantastic.
So fun.
They've been really, really good this week.
I love it.
It's different to streaming. So streaming is like we're doing now. It's you and I, or wherever, we're looking at a camera, and the only feedback that we get is that text in the chat box. Whereas with Discord, people can hook up their cameras, they can have the microphones if they need to. But as a trainer, as a PT, there's so much value in me being able to check form and see if people are going, maybe going a little bit under their level that I'd expect of them. And to be able to get that instant feedback, and then me being able to jump up and chat to you, and say weird things and funny stuff, and just motivate.
Yeah. It's funny because it kind of stemmed from a negative. So the whole reason why we started doing them is because one of our friends, G, has she traveled interstate, not knowing that when she came back she had to quarantine for 14 days because the borders, the rules kept changing, and she got a bit confused. So she came back and was like, great, now I'm stuck inside for 14 days. So we're like, hey, let's keep each other accountable and let's do some workouts over Discord. And then so we did one with her, and we were like, hey, this would be sick. Have 6-7 people in the Discord with us doing it offline. And for me, what it's been like for me doing workouts actually on stream, because you've had so much exposure on FitForPurpose over the last few months, having front page and stuff. It's brought a lot of riffraff to the stream, and it just makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable. So these streams in particular has been great. I don't have to worry about how I look or whatever. I'm just kind of there to just do my workout with everybody else, and everybody's just getting after it, and they're not sitting there being like, you're hot. It's everyone's there with their face in the camera. They're not going to be a piece of shit. They're just going to be there to get their workout done. And it's been really freaking cool. I love it. It's a really fun dynamic.
That's it. And I love as well, because Beefwood's just said to me he's going to grab a better camera and light for the next session. I love how people are getting into it themselves, and really it's another it's another facet of motivation. I think it's another facet, like you said, holding ourselves accountable. And if you know you're going to be there with friends, it's like the gym. It's like the gym buddies thing. It's
And I think it's kind of similar to my Discord. Like, I would love for that to get to a point where I don't have to be there to organize people playing games. Just like maybe it'll get to a point where you don't have to be there to organize workouts. People will just be like, hey, looking for a couple people to do a workout with. They'll just jump in there, chuck on their cameras and do it all together, like go through a VOD together or something. Like that would be so freaking cool. Because obviously time zones, like 6 p.m. our time's not going to work for everybody else, because that could be 2 a.m. for somebody else. Like it would be really cool to see people kind of self-motivate with each other.
G has just told me as well, but you are hot, Grace.
Thanks, G.
So no, that's been a really big up for me, is that I suppose finding a new connection with people, doing the on-site in-person stuff. That's had a bit of up and down as well, because the clients that I normally have throughout the week, there's been some people going through some stuff in their own personal lives, and I've had to can a few because I've had to be at the hospital with the lad. So the Discord stuff has been good as a replacement or as just an extra session in for people when they can make it.
Yeah, I really like it. That was kind of tied to one of my ups for the week for sure.
What was yours?
Well, that, like the workouts. And also, I was approached by Oculus, and they're going to be sending me a Quest 2. So I'm really excited about that, because I haven't ever tried like an untethered VR system. So I'm really excited to check that out. And I think
we're going to talk more on that in the tech section.
I think in the tech section we'll talk about the specifics of the actual headset itself. But that was like a really fun little piece of news. And I'm also going to be a part of a Twitch Rivals coming up next week. So I think I've done one Twitch Rivals for Apex in the past, and we got like obliterated by Spud and Hey Katie. But this time we're doing a game called Moving Out, which is kind of like Overcooked. It's just like chaotic, silly physics. And I'm playing with Barjo, Jens, and John. So I don't think we'll win, but I think we'll have a damn fun time trying.
I was going to say, if Barjo's on the team, it's going to be fun.
It's definitely not going to be like serious business. It's just going to be a laugh. And I mean, there's prize money up to like, there's 4 teams and there's prize money for all 4. So regardless, we'll come out with like a couple $100 if we come 4th. So it's kind of cool, fun to be a part of for sure. Like. Yeah, just doing.
I just imagine like playing games with Barjo is just a lot of, just lots and lots.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep.
So yeah, that's probably my ups and downs of the week. I mean, the down was just not that dramatic. Like it hasn't been a dramatic week. It's just,
But living through that though, like I know how it is. You've got a schedule to keep. You're getting ready, and you've planned in your mind what I need to do in the morning, and then here's something that's just thrown like half an hour worth of other stuff into it. So
yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, it was just the unexpected nature of it, because I was like sick. I got up, I felt good, I was on time. And then I come downstairs and my blood pressure just rises to like a bazillion. Like, God damn it. And then I don't know if it had an effect, but I was playing a game called The Council, and there was some really intellectual parts that I felt my brain just could not figure out anything. And I was just like, I blame the cats for making me just lose my shit all morning. And then my brain just wasn't firing. I couldn't deal. So upset.
It's all good. That's all right. That's okay.
Yeah.
So no, we've had some ups and downs, and I think going into next week, I think with the that's pretty similar to like my working week as well. It's everything's been thrown out of balance because of stuff that's happened, and I'm just having to push time across. So I think one of the lessons we can take from that is maybe if the time management thing includes a little bit of extra contingency, that helps. But also not to stress so much about things. Like, you get to stream, that's fine. The kitty stuff gets cleaned up. Yeah. My work will get done. It's fine. People understand. So.
I know, I've just kind of been trying to really hold myself accountable, because I never used to have a set time of my stream starts, which I think was probably a mistake. I think it's good having a start time so people can at least try to plan their days if they really want to catch, a specific game that I'm playing. They can at least try to plan for it. And I don't like letting people down. So when I say I'm going to be there at that time, like, I expect myself to be there at that time. So like not being there and not being on time was just one of those things where I'm like, oh, fuck's sake. Like,
Yeah,
a little annoyance, I suppose.
And I mean, that's a good thing. That's a good thing to hold that kind of stress because it keeps you on track. And it's that motivation type stress. So yeah, sweet, awesome.
Yeah. All right. You want to talk about the tech talk?
Tech talk. All right.
So we've changed it to tech talk instead of gaming because we found like a lot of topics we were talking about or wanted to talk about weren't necessarily just video games. Like we kind of are interested in all things tech.
Yeah.
Did you want to talk about the first one?
The first one on my list, Bethesda news, bought by Microsoft. So
$7.5 billion.
Was it 7.5 or was it 7.6?
7.6.
I was going to say it's because it's 76.
Yeah.
$7.6
billion.
So $1 billion. That's a lot. That's a lot. And when people. So this is something that I've been a part of. Well, not through to the end.
He's a billionaire, chat. Get him.
No. What I've been a part of is a company buying, so an acquisition and a merger. The company that...
The Spanish acquisition?
Oh, God.
Got him.
Thanks, Grace. Acquisitions and mergers are funny things. And when people go, whoa, $7.6 billion, but they're not worth that. There are a lot of funny calculations that go into, and actually Fiticus, who's in chat's a business accountant here, will understand.
He's a good math guy.
Good math guy. And there's this thing called Ebitda, which I don't know, I don't recall exactly what it stands for. I know. But it's it's a methodology of figuring out how much a company is worth, not just based on like their current assets, but also based on how much they make and how much they're projected to make in a couple of years' time. So that's where this number comes from. It's a $7.6 billion based on, there we go, earning before interest and tax. That's what the EBITDA stands for. So before interest and tax, how much they earn, but then they also take into account over, say, like the next 5 years, if you've got another Elder Scrolls game, another Fallout game, those sorts of things that are slated to come out, how much do you expect to be making from those?
Yeah.
And that's what's involved in that. So
I feel like that's kind of hard to predict with games because you don't know. It's like when a movie comes out, you don't know what they're going to gross at the box office. It just depends on the popularity.
And the other thing to take into account for them would be now that Bethesda is a team as a part of Microsoft with heaps more resources behind them, they could potentially be selling a lot more.
Yeah, true.
What's your take? What's your take on the merger there?
Yeah, I mean, pretty similar. I don't think it's a bad thing. I've seen a few people being like, oh, no. Like, people are always kind of anti any company buying another company. I think in the grand scheme of things, Microsoft's probably one of the better to do that because the good thing about, I mean, for me, my biggest concern is like a Fallout game not being on PC. So say, for example, if PlayStation were to acquire Bethesda, then it would likely become an exclusive to PlayStation, and that would be a big concern. Whereas it being Microsoft, it's likely going to still be on PC. And if it gives Bethesda more resources and gives them more, like a bigger team to work with to make the games not only better, but maybe get made faster or, better quality. More brains, I think, is always a good thing when it comes to game developer. Like, if there's a bigger team on it, then you're going to have people with a lot more varied ideas and different skills they can bring forward to the titles. So, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be a positive thing moving forward. It may not have a huge impact, really. Like, it might be like when a band gets a new drummer, you don't really notice sometimes.
Yeah. And to be honest, that's probably what a lot of these types of acquisitions aim for. They try and make it as seamless as possible. So
yeah, I mean, it's like Logitech buying Astro. Nothing's changed for Astro.
Nothing changed. It's literally just a way that I suppose companies can then utilize each other's. So I mean, with the Logitech and Astro thing, I'm pretty sure they took Logitech's logistical network, and so they're able to deliver Astro products a lot better. I think so that's how a lot of these things work. So they'll rely upon each other's resources. So it's to me, like, I agree. Being Microsoft, I think a big powerful company with lots of resources will do it good. Yep. But yeah, it would have been interesting to see if it was someone like PlayStation, what would happen there. So.
And I mean, ultimately, Microsoft bought Bethesda because they obviously think the games are of good quality and worth owning the IPs to. So I guess I don't see them trying to like ruin the heart of the games because they obviously love them. So they just want to get the money from it, basically. I think, which is fine. Exactly. It's business.
Yeah, I think it's a good business business decision.
I think so too.
Nice.
Did you have anything else on gaming news?
I did. There was so Tech Talk. We had those of you that own iDevices. Now we're not here to start a poop slinging match between anyone, but I have Apple devices. iOS 14 came out this week, which just I suppose have you installed it, Grace? iOS 14?
Not yet, no.
No. I've been playing. I'm one of those early adopter kind of guys. I like to beta test things. I like to jump in and just look at features and throw caution to the wind. But yeah, there's lots of cool features, and the things that have actually jumped out at me, being the fit-for-purpose health guy, we're up to 14.0.1 already. Okay, Nate. There are some really cool sleep features. Now I know that there were some sleep things in in iOS 13. They started to introduce those sorts of things, but now there's lots and lots of cool stuff which is actually bringing together a lot more of those features there. So you can set basically a sleep time, a sleep goal. It'll automatically say, okay, if you want to wake up at this time and get this many hours, there's like a slider to say what time you need to go to bed. And then it'll automatically line up things like going into night mode, turning the blue light filter on, and then also things like, which kind of surprised me, it'll fire up notes for you like half an hour before bedtime so you can do your daily journaling.
Oh wow,
that's very cool.
That's super cool.
So it actually detected that I had Headspace installed as well. So it says, okay, we're gonna remind you to fire up Headspace so you can put on one of those sleep meditations before you go to bed.
Wow.
Which is very, very cool. So that was big tick from me. And the other thing that I noticed, which I was doing while I was multitasking on my phone, you can now watch picture-in-picture videos. So
sick.
Twitch, yeah, so I was able to keep a Twitch stream up while I flicked over to Discord and checked on some notes, and it was all in the same screen on the phone, which was kind of cool. You could do it on the iPad. Yeah, it could be done on the iPad in the past, but now on the phone, which is very cool.
I wonder if you can do that with YouTube, because they've got like YouTube Red. I wonder if they'd lock that.
They might. Yeah, true.
You got to pay your subscription to do that.
So Nath has also just mentioned that there are hidden accessibility features where you can tap the back of your phone.
I did see that actually, to do a screenshot and stuff.
Does that work with a cover on there, or does it need to be the capacitive touch on the metal? Just whack it. Just whack it. No.
Cool.
It does work with the cover.
Nice.
Nice. Awesome. So yeah, that's a cool one. But yeah, like the journaling and the meditation stuff, as well as the sleep timers. Oh, and the alarm to wake up as well is much more pleasant than the
really?
Than the ear bleed. Yeah.
I'm awake, I promise.
Yeah, it's got a very cool thing.
Yeah,
so yeah,
cool.
no, that's some of the tech that I noticed this week. So there's some things to check out if you haven't already.
Okay. Cool.
What's on your tech radar this week?
So obviously with the we talked about the 3090 like 2 weeks ago, when that was super new and relevant. Just something to mention, the Xbox pre-orders have been and gone, and they sold out in like, I think it was like 14 minutes. I did see some articles, I'm not sure how true they are. I didn't look into it that much because, as you know, if you listened last week, the Xbox isn't on my list to pre-order. But apparently a lot of scalpers took the pre-orders.
So picking up pre-orders and on-selling them?
Yeah, so I don't know how accurate that is, but that's most of the headlines that I saw. But yeah, so apparently Xbox been and gone. I don't think PlayStation's done their second lot of pre-orders yet, but yeah, console things.
Yeah,
I did a poll. I was really curious. I mean, obviously it's going to be skewed because for me as a creator, I main on PC and I do some PlayStation content. So obviously my audience on Twitter is probably going to reflect that as well, which is exactly what it did. So I did a tweet yesterday saying, what console's on your wish list? Let me know in the comments why you made your choice. The 4 options were PlayStation with a disc drive, PS5 digital edition, Xbox Series X, which is the big one, and Xbox Series S, which is the digital only. 698 people voted, and PlayStation got 48.9% of the votes, the big one with the disc drive, which I was kind of surprised by.
So the actual disc drive one got 48%.
48% of the votes, and second was the digital edition of the PlayStation on 24%. So
that's incredible.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Yeah.
I thought a lot more people would go digital, but a lot of the comments, so it's got like 60 comments or something. So the main thing that I saw for people's decisions were that if you're purely buying digital only games, there's not a lot of competitive pricing. Like it's if it's on the PlayStation Store, it's one price, and that's pretty much it. Whereas if you can shop around for actual physical copies, especially, at EB Games, they do pre-owned games and things like that. If you're the person selling them, you're going to get a tiny portion of what the game's actually worth. But if you're buying it, you get like a pretty decent discount. So I think being able to actually buy and sell your games physically is still something that is attractive to a lot of people when they are trying to, squeeze every penny, which is cool. You can play the game, sell it or return it or whatever, which you can't do with digital. So I was initially
passing it on to friends.
Yeah, for sure. I was initially like, what? But then I'm like, oh yeah, that actually makes kind of sense, because you're kind of getting more than one copy of the game when you buy it on a disc. You're pretty much infinite if you keep passing the disc on.
Yeah.
So that was interesting.
And the other thing is, Jimmy just mentioned some of those that are still on capped internet. So Australian internet's probably nerfing a little bit of that too. So yeah.
You're still gonna have to install system updates every time you turn it on that are like 5 gig or whatever. So
true.
I don't know. Fitticus has said, with kids, I find it extremely annoying to have to swap discs and cartridges and the wear and tear on those things. So I'd pay a little bit more for digital. Yeah.
I think that there's everyone's going to have different use cases for that one.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm digital all the way. It's I don't like having to have storage space for discs. They get scratched, etc., etc.
Put them in their own case, then you can't find them.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. So that's the same thing I did Fitticus as well with basically all of the DVDs that I had for the kids in the past was just I owned the DVDs, basically ripped them to a server and got rid of the discs. So best way, I think. So that's still, it's really interesting to me that huge a percentage went that would prefer the disc edition.
Yeah. But, I wasn't overly surprised about the Xbox being, I knew the PlayStation would win, like I said, because of my audience being who they are and following me. But also most people that said they didn't care about the Xbox was because they do have a PC, which is kind of like I predicted. Like if you have a PC, you don't really need an Xbox. If you don't have a PC and you like the Xbox interface or controller or whatever, I can totally see how it makes sense. But, if you have a PC already and you can only buy one console, it's a no-brainer to get the PlayStation, because you're getting exclusives that you wouldn't otherwise have access to, and you can play all the other Microsoft games on your PC system.
But aren't PC gamers like vegan DJs?
Yeah, I don't know what they tell you first, whether they do CrossFit or that they're vegan or that they play PC or there's so much ego with PC gaming, and it makes me like hate being a PC gamer sometimes. It's like anything, like it makes me annoyed that I sometimes do CrossFit workouts, or that I enjoy vegan food, or like that I play PC because like elitists always have to ruin shit. It's just like, let people play games on whatever platform they want, who cares? Like, it's not that serious. Like, we're playing video games.
Yeah.
Freaking relax.
But that's pretty much a rule for life. Elitists are going to ruin shit.
Yeah. Like D&D. That's a topic for another time.
Yeah, we'll talk about that one.
So
on the future ep.
Yeah, the next thing I want to talk about in terms of tech is the Oculus. So as I mentioned, I'm going to be getting the Oculus Quest 2, and I didn't know a whole lot about the specs of the system, which now, upon further investigations, I'm really freaking impressed. So I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of an explanation of the comparisons. So the main headsets out there at the moment, something to note as well is that the Oculus Rift S is going to be halted as of, I think it's February next year. They're going to stop making it. So the Quest 2 is going to be so what is it? Facebook will retire its Oculus Rift S next year, and the original Quest supply is already sold out in many places. So the Quest 2 will soon be the only option for Oculus headset buyers.
Yep.
So if you like the Rift S, get it now, because you won't get it for much longer. So the Oculus Quest 2, this is all American pricing. The starting price for the Oculus Quest 2 is $299, which is $100 USD cheaper than the current Quest. The Valve Index is $999 USD. The Vive Cosmos is $699, and the HP Reverb G2 is $599.
Yeah. Okay.
So it is the cheapest headset by far, and it's actually got the second most pixels per eye. So it has 1832 by 1920 pixels per eye. The current Quest has 1440 by 1600. The Index has the same as the first Quest, 1440 by 1600. The Cosmos has 1440 by 1700, and the HP Reverb has 2160 by 2160 per eye. So that one is the leader in terms of pixels per eye. And it's in the middle of the pack, so it's $599, so which is $200 more than the Oculus Quest, but it's not tethered. It is tethered, sorry. The Oculus Quest is untethered. Yeah.
Yep. And the other thing with the Quest 2, from what I was reading, is that you can play the Quest games in its wireless, untethered fashion. But if you would like to play Rift games, you can actually tether it via a USB-C or some sort of a proprietary cable there.
Yeah, the cable is $129 USD. So it becomes pretty on par with the... not quite on par with the Reverb, but it makes it tethered so you can access those more beefy games, I suppose.
Yeah. Which is kind of cool. So the thing that, obviously once you get it, you can have a play around with things and let me know how it works. But what I'd be interested in knowing is how to, I suppose, capture the content from
mixed reality.
The mixed reality stuff. Yeah. So that's where it's going to be both intriguing and I'm sure full of headaches. But we know how VR works, and we know that the mixed reality is maturing every day as well.
I'll just take videos of myself running around outside in it instead of content. I'm actually really excited to have the freedom to play it wherever. Like, I'm not going to have to be tethered to a computer, which is pretty crazy when you think about it.
Yeah.
It also comes in two storage options. There's a 64 gig, which is the base $299 price, or 256 gig, which I think is like... I remember it being like 600 AUD, so it's
Do you know if that's
a price increase.
I could probably find out this myself, but these are just coming to me now. But do you know if that's that internal storage can be popped up with an SD card or something? So I'm guessing the storage. Yeah, because I suppose if the storage is for the games, you might be able to prop it up. And the other thing I was wondering, what's the battery life like on the untethered Quest 2?
I read somewhere, it's not in this document, but I read it's between like 2 to 3 hours.
Okay. Yeah,
so it's not an insignificant amount of time, considering like if you play Runeterra on your iPad, you'll get about 45 minutes to an hour.
I'm guessing if it's tethered, it'll probably pass power over that as well.
You'd hope so. 2 to 3 hours, which is the same with the normal Quest.
Yep. Okay. And so the things that jump out at me for the Quest, there's a couple of titles such as Box VR and Fit VR, which if you're going for a workout, 2 to 3 hours is ample. An hour worth of Box VR would destroy me. It's very, very good.
I have a little gripe with the Quest 2. So the original Quest was black. This one's white. And as someone, like, whenever I do VR, I try to take off all of my makeup to make sure I don't get makeup all through it. But, sometimes I don't get all of it near my hairline. So I have a little concern that it might get some makeup stains on it. But I'm just going to, be completely paranoid about stripping every ounce of makeup off before I use it. Because I don't want to get makeup stains on the nice white headband.
Yeah.
It looks really nice. The design's nice. You can also... there is hand tracking, so you can use it not for gaming, but you can use it to navigate through your menus. So it's going to be kind of like
Minority Report.
Yeah, like scrolling through using your hand through the menus, which is like that next level of virtual reality, which is kind of dope. But the controllers, you are still going to have to use the controllers for most gaming. So it's crazy too. The Valve Index on here with the comparison, the Valve Index is 809 grams. This one's only 503. That's like, the Valve is a big boy.
Yeah,
it's a big boy.
That's cool.
So yeah, it seems like it's going to be very lightweight and nice to just maneuver around. So I'm really excited. I haven't tried the Oculus Rift S. I tried the original Oculus, I guess, what was it just called? Just the Oculus Rift?
I think it was just Oculus Rift was the first one, I believe. Yeah.
So I tried that one at E3 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't tried an Oculus since then. So I'm really excited to see how far they've come since my first VR experience, really. It's going to be cool.
Competition makes things great.
100%.
And there's lots of competition in the VR market. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be cool. And hopefully, I mean, being sponsored by Omen, it would be great if I could get my hands on a Reverb so I have a point of reference to be like, okay, Oculus Quest is amazing for a $300 headset. If you want to pay a little extra and get a tethered thing that can run, you know, anything from Steam VR, then Reverb might be the way to go. Be great to have those two to compare to each other.
Yeah, the other thing to note as well is the Zvr Backpack as part of the HP Z range, which is actually a fully functioning vest with a PC that you actually attach to the back, 4 battery packs on the belt, and that makes a fully functioning Reverb unit.
I wonder if that's what they use
Portable.
at the like zero latency places, because that's all.
Oh, that's all untethered?
Yeah.
Or... Okay, I've never been to one.
You might be tethered to the roof or something somehow. I don't know. I haven't been to it, but I've had them
seen photos...
DM me a few times, be like, "You want to come play?" I'm like, "I'm in Adelaide."
I've seen a few photos of those ones. It may not have been zero latency, but they did have the tether above, which would follow you around.
Okay.
Room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I get so immersed in games, especially in VR. I feel like I would just be screaming and just sweating and just sprinting around the room.
That'd be
Imagine.
intense. Yeah, like a zombie game or something, just running around. That would be crazy.
So
Nice.
good.
So sweet. Were there any other tech things you had this week?
I think that's it. That's my main ones. Yeah. I was kind of
Awesome.
My main focus this week was to make sure I got the book done and like a wall of notes. So everything else was kind of a little on the back burner this week. But yeah, the Oculus was great news. I was really pumped.
Yep. Awesome.
Cool.
Cool.
So we went to our picks then.
Let's move on.
Shall
Let's move on
we?
to picks. Yes.
Cool. So we'll talk about the book last because that's going to launch into the main topic. Show wise, what do we watch?
What are the shows? Now I keep forgetting the name of this, but it's basically I think it's the Great American
Barbecue Showdown.
I think
it is. Yeah, it's on Netflix.
So. On Netflix. Yep. So I've been into barbecue for a while.
You've barred some cues in your time.
I've barred some cues. There's been there's a few of us in chat as well as part of the FFG and the FFP fam that actually do competition barbecue.
Pleb's not around at the moment, but
Pleb's not here.
He's
No.
a big barbecue boy.
I've cooked a few beefs in my time. That's right. But barbecue, I learned this actually when there is a little bit of a regional difference in barbecue, the term barbecue. In Australia, people will actually think of barbecue as like the process of cooking something on a grill. Where in the United States, in some states, it's actually a name for a type of flavor or a process, or it's used very differently all around the world. But basically, this one is taking a few competitive cookers and turning them or setting them against each other with different proteins and different sides, and it's really, really good. I mean, have you done much barbecuing before? Have you done any of this in the past?
No, I've never used a smoker or like a big. I've grilled some patties on a grill, but
cooked
some steaks, but not anything crazy now.
In Australia, it's maybe an hour with a hot grill, and people throw steaks on, and people throw sausages on, and that's a barbecue. Whereas the competition stuff that these guys are doing goes between 5 to 18 hours worth of cooking, where you take certain cuts of meat and you really try and add flavor profiles to them.
I think I just heard the Drinky Bird drink then.
Drinky Bird, you can't see it on my screen chat, but I got a Drinky Bird up there.
You got to make sure the tongs work. You got to give them a test. You got to do the clicky clacks.
Click clack, yep. So I've watched a few barbecue shows in my time. One of the first ones was called Barbecue Pitmasters. So me going into this new show on Netflix, which is completely it's a Netflix original. I was obviously comparing it in my mind to that, where Barbecue Pitmasters, they used to do the big overnight cooks. Every competition was an 18-hour cook, and they had a very, very set or a set of rules that they had to follow. Whereas this one, they seem to mix the challenges up every episode, every week. which was very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, like they did like a wild one where they were basically cooking like roadkill. So it was like beaver and iguana and alligator and raccoon and just all these crazy meats that a lot of them had never eaten before, let alone had to cook it and serve it to a panel of judges. So that was probably one of the most interesting episodes, is seeing this. So they had to cook one and they had to stew one. So like it was a big decision for them to figure out, okay, which meat is gonna stew better. Like I think one person had hare as well, and figuring out which one to stew and what flavors to go with it. And the woman with the iguana was just like, this tastes like shit. I can't imagine eating an iguana, what that would taste like. I've eaten crocodile, but I haven't really eaten like a small reptile like that before.
Like
so
a lizard.
I can't imagine what that meat must taste like.
Yeah.
Also, don't watch it if you're a vegan. Obviously, it's not going to be something you want to see, because there's a lot of like, carving meat and butchering stuff. Even the mac and cheese had pulled pork in it. There's meat in everything. They had to actually murder the lobsters and stuff as well. So just beware, trigger warning to people that aren't meat eaters. Don't watch the show, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it really did showcase. Like for me, I've often had dinner challenges presented to me where people will rock up and say, Jeff, here's a bag of shopping, make me dinner. And you kind of have to just know what flavor profiles go with certain things and know what to do with certain proteins, and you can make a thing. And so that was really cool to watch these people that, they've spent a lot of time learning how to do a beef, and then having to go, okay, look, now I've got an alligator. What do I do? Is do I cook this like a beef, or do I cook it like a chicken?
Yeah. I think for me, because you came into the show, so I've watched it as well. Jeff came into the show knowing a lot about cooking and barbecue and stuff. I came into it just I just want to watch something where I don't really have to think about much, and I can just kind of enjoy watching people sweat over a big smoker. And the first episode I was like, yeah, okay, it's not a must watch, whatever. But then, I don't know, the people in the show, the contestants were really likable, and they were just really sweet, and just, you're really nice Southern belles. they were really cool, and I started to really like the people in the show, and I wanted to see them do well, and I wanted to see how they went. And the challenges started to get really interesting. There'd be 5 hours into their cook, and then there'd be surprise challenge, here's some lobsters or whatever, just to fuck them up and make them sweat. So I think it was really interesting to watch as someone who doesn't know a lot about that world, and just see the challenges that they did face. And I never really thought about it, but having to maintain the temperature of a manual fire, not just a gas stove, an actual fire that you have to keep feeding coals and keep a consistent temperature. I never really thought about it. So yeah, I think I learned a little thing or two about barbecue, which I hadn't really thought about, which was kind of cool. Awesome.
It's good. It's good to be introduced to new things, and especially since, like you said, we've got a mutual friend there who does compete in these things. So it's interesting to see what they go through. For that sort of thing.
It did feel a little bit sometimes excuse me, they were trying to set them up for failure a bit, because kind of nailed it. Okay, here's a huge task. You have to make 2 proteins with 3 sides and a dessert and all of this. You got 5 hours. It's wow, we would normally do this in 12. What the heck? So seeing them face those challenges and being set to a really difficult task in a short amount of time, and seeing how they tackle that and how they time manage and stuff, I think was just kind of interesting to watch. It was cool.
I think it's the same theory that we used behind setting ourselves a 90-minute goal for the kettlebell cakes. Having that time limit makes for good content.
It does. And even though we completely went over and it took us 3 hours.
Yeah, that's right. So that was.
We didn't talk about the kettlebell cakes.
Oh, that was cool. So yeah, that was one of the picks there.
Yeah. So there was one that I intended to watch, but ran out of time just because this week's been a bit of a doozy. So I think for next week's goal, if any of you listening or watching would like to be a little more informed for next week, I'm thinking we watch Alona before next week. So Alona? Yeah, so it's a new movie on Netflix. It has Henry Cavill and Millie Bobby Brown, and it's Millie Bobby Brown is Sherlock Holmes' little sister, and right. I think it's something like their mother goes missing or something, and they have to work together as detectives, brother and sister, to find out what happened. Sounds really cool, and it looks dope, and I love Millie. So Yeah, I think I'm going to probably aim to watch that before next week. It's like 2 hours, 2 minutes. So when I got to a finishing stream and wrapping things up last night, I was like, oh shit, I don't have enough time. So yeah, that's going to be the goal before
awesome.
next week. But who is the Demogorgon? That's Henry Cavill, don't tell anyone. It's a big twist. Oh, you watched it last night, GTA? Ooh, okay.
Jimmy also watched it.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Jimmy says it's solid.
Sweet.
Awesome.
Yeah, okay. So we'll aim to watch that before next week, and then we'll talk about that for our pick next week, because I watched a few Harry Potter movies this week, but haven't had the time to watch anything else.
Yeah, fair enough. Awesome. So shall we now, kick off this the big portion of this podcast today.
So as we've mentioned a few times, we are going to be talking about the book Women Don't Owe You Pretty by Florence Given. We both listened to this in our own time in audiobook form on Audible. And probably just as a precursor, like trigger warning, it's heavy. There's going to be a lot of deep topics. I think we're both probably going to open up a little bit. My heart's already racing. And yeah, it's probably going to, there's going to be parts of it where certain people don't want to hear, because obviously it is from a woman's perspective, and there's going to be a lot of that perspective, which I'm going to add to, and you're going to talk about it from the male perspective.
From the male's perspective, yeah. From I should point out, I'm taking this as a man of color as well, because I am not of the white privilege, and we'll touch a lot more on that as we get into the book as well. Privilege, assumptions. Sure. Okay. I don't know how you want to attempt this. Did you want to go through, I suppose, I know that you took some very, very comprehensive notes chapter by chapter.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We may as well kick it off from the beginning there. Well, so what's your take on, I suppose, the introduction and the title and whatnot?
So I think it took a little while for me to not warm to her, because it's not her responsibility to make me feel comfortable. I think it took me a bit to understand why her perspective was, it seemed very brash, I think is a good way to describe it. From the get-go, it was like, whoa, okay, like, she's not fucking about, this is serious business. And it, obviously it needs to be. It's a hard thing. And it's something that I've definitely encountered a lot in my career online and as an internet female, I suppose, is coming out and saying, hey, it's kind of shitty to be a woman sometimes, because you're immediately met with, no, it's not, whatever, it's easier, blah, blah, blah. Like, you're automatically, immediately met with dudes telling you how easy it is to not be male. And even like for me listening to this book as a female, a lot of the time I was like, fuck, that sounds super aggressive. That's like, it feels very accusatory, and it's very like, dudes are the enemy. And I think it starts very aggressively, and I think it kind of needs to, because it's not a light topic, and it's not her responsibility to make you feel good, I think.
Yep.
From chapter 5 onwards, it kind of starts to feel a little bit more like a self-help book. I think there's a lot of great lessons that can be learned, and I just think you need to get past those first 5 or so chapters, which are like pretty confronting and pretty full on. Even as a female listening to it, what was your take on the first
I was going to
chunk?
say, so the first thing that I took, now I wanted to make a huge point of not knowing anything about the author. I didn't want to know what she looked like, how old she was. I didn't want to know any of her background. I basically wanted to take the title of the book, what she's put on the front there, and I suppose just take all of her content as it is without knowing much about her. So the first thing is the title for me, Women Don't Owe You Pretty. So if I were when I basically looked at it and I heard the title, to me that sounds like it's a woman speaking to me as a man, saying that she does not owe me pretty, which that's cool. Like she definitely can say that, and I'll take that. So I immediately thought that the tone of the book was going to be, okay, man, sit down, take some notes. I'm going to teach you a thing or two, which is what I was ready for. But like you said, the first 5 chapters or so, very, very intense in terms of vitriol, I think is a good word. I don't know, vitriol might be unfair because she's obviously been through some really rough times, absolutely rough times.
Yeah.
And I'm 100% empathizing with everything she's been through and everything she's saying. My issue with it is that the first 5 chapters are very, very, very much a patriarchy has taught you all the wrong things, and everything that's wrong with all of these things right now is man's fault, is men's fault. And me as a male, I start to feel like I'm having to sit through being caned, like just you're bad, you're bad, you're bad, you're bad, you're bad. But the perspective that she's writing from, she's actually talking to another female.
Yeah.
So that was my first issue with it, and it did take a little bit of a while for me to get over this, and I say get over because I got over it. Is that in my mind I'm thinking, hang on, you're meant to be talking to me and teaching me a lesson, but you're speaking to another woman just bad mouthing men.
Yeah.
And I did, and that's why I said, I think in one of your streams halfway through the week, was that I legitimately didn't want to keep reading it. And if I hadn't needed to read it for this review today, and I was just trying to listen to this for my own enjoyment, I probably would have turned it off in the first 5 chapters.
Yeah.
But getting through that, and getting through those first 5 chapters of just blame, it's not my problem, it's everyone else's fault, and this is why men are wrong, and this is why racism is wrong, and this is why white people are wrong. It's very intense. It's very, I think it sets a tone which does dissipate later on, and like you said, it turns into a bit more of a self-help, and to be honest, it would have been a great book in terms of, okay, here are some really good rules for life. Here's how not to be a jerk in life.
I think, maybe if the title was different, do you feel like your expectations would have been different? If it was like,
absolutely,
we don't owe men pretty,
so in
or
like
something like that.
Yeah, and because what that actually tries to define is the audience and the market and who this is written for. So after you've
like,
been
hey
through this
girl,
book,
you're so much more than just pretty.
that would have been fantastic as a title. But see, the thing is, and I think you'll agree with me here, if that was the title, then men probably wouldn't pick it up to read it and potentially learn something from it.
Do you really think men would though? Because it's not written for, I don't think it's made for a guy to learn from it, to be honest.
No.
Like, I feel like it's very girl power, and it's very, this is probably how you've been treated for a lot of your life, and it's because of these reasons, which is up for debate whether that's exactly correct. I'm not sure of her education or where she's, gotten the information from. There's definitely parts of it that I super duper freaking agree with as a woman, being 28. I've lived through a lot of bullshit. And there's parts where I'm like, yes, fucking right on, sister. Like, hells yeah. But yeah, I don't think it's aimed for dudes to take notes, because I don't think, and it's something that we've definitely encountered a lot through trying to help educate people to be more open-minded and handling situations better. I don't think anyone who needs to hear this, like closed-minded people who are either like anti-women or anti-LGBTQI+, they're not going to read this. They're not going to go for a feminist book and listen to it and take anything away from it, I don't think.
My problem with that is that in order to solve the problems that she's talking about, to solve these issues, there needs to be some sort of education to the people that are going to perpetrate these behaviors. And like you say, the people that are going to perpetrate and continually make this an issue in the future, they're not likely to pick up a book like this because of the way it's written.
I mean, a book's not going to... this is my opinion. I don't think a book is going to change the world. I don't care how good it is. It has to be the systems that are in place that have made all of these attitudes happen in the world.
And I suppose, do you think a book like this may help in reform, or do you think that a book like this is just a bit of a vent and a bit of a self-help for the people that are potentially the victims?
I think it's a really good thing for women to listen to be like, hey, like the world is kind of against you sometimes, and this is probably why, and this is why it's okay, and you have to, you know, learn some hard lessons, but you can be okay, basically.
Yep.
Like, and I think that's fine. I think it's not a bad thing that this book exists. I think the title could definitely be better, like you said. Like, it definitely, my thoughts going into it, knowing nothing about it, I was like, cool, this is going to tell men why they're shitty to us, kind of thing. Not all men, obviously. This is not saying to every guy in the chat, you're a piece of garbage, or everybody listening to it. Like, that's not what we're saying. It's just...
What I had trouble with was that a lot of the language used in the book was exactly that.
Yeah.
Was exactly every man is garbage, and
yeah.
It was very, very strong. And then I was sort of going into that being personally attacked. While I'm reading it was quite tricky. It was quite tough to sit through and listen to. And then going into, I became very critical of a lot of her arguments because I was already a little bit on the back foot. I was already a little bit defensive for being privileged. And so I would actually, a lot of my notes that I'm reading through now, I think I may have been a little bit unfair because at the time of me writing it, I was sitting there going, oh, well, I'll show you. I'll write this down. And
I think that I kind of thought that might be what you'd bring up. And I think it's important to kind of be self-aware and recognize that this isn't a book from the man's perspective. Like, I think it's easy to sit and listen to something and be like, but what about me? Like, what about my opinion? What about my feelings? It's not about you. Like... and maybe the title was a little misleading, which made you think that it was going to be about you, but it's not about you. Like, this is about the trials and tribulations of a woman and the shit that we face on a daily basis just because of our gender and the way that we look and the genders that we were born into or what we've been assumed to be. And it's kind of like when Black Lives Matter, it's like you don't go up to Black Lives Matter rallies and go, but what about me? Like, I mean, you're a person of color, so it's kind of different. If I was to go to a Black Lives Matter rally and be like, but what about white lives? You wouldn't, because it's not about you right now. You're not being marginalized.
The other thing that I disagree with in terms of the title is that it's not actually all just about women.
Yeah.
Like you said, there's touching on race, there's touching on the Black Lives Matter, there's touching on gender and the spectrum of gender.
Yeah.
And
that part was fucking fascinating.
So I mean, if I were to go through the things that I really didn't like about it, and these are my dot points that I wrote. I'm just going to be open of the things I wrote there. So in the beginning, she basically wanted to shame people who were fat shaming, but then she would go on to talk about health. Physical health. So there was some really weird contradictory paragraphs in there, especially when you jumped from between chapter 3 and chapter 19. There were two very opposite points of view. And I don't know if that's just she wrote those two chapters at different times and maybe didn't go back and read through them. There was a lot of feeling that men are the root of all problems.
Yeah, it did feel like that a bit. And even for me, like, it was a little hard to hear that because I don't think men are the root of all evil. I don't think like all men are inherently evil and want women to suffer, because I have a lot of great men in my life that don't think like that, and not all men hate women and actually, want to cause them harm. And one thing I wanted to say, and actually it's fortunate that I've got another Filipino in my chat here with me, because I would like to run this by you. She has a lot of arguments that she says, so things like women are told to find husbands, but you'll never hear vice versa. She said you'll never hear. With that. I definitely did not, because my mother is of Filipino descent, and it's always like, go find a wife, go find a wife, go find a wife. And that was all I heard sort of growing up. And my mum's opposite. She's like, don't get married.
My
mum's different.
Also things like the ageism, where she said people will always say she looks good for her age, but they'll never say it about a man. And I'm like, no, we get that all the time. And I don't know whether it's very just generalized, very, very generalized.
I think it's case by case, because, there's always like those older men that pull younger women because they're, gold diggers or eye candy or whatever. Like, there's going to be situations where it differs for sure. I think it's a lot of assumptions, which is funny because she does a whole topic about assumptions, not to make them. And I think a lot of what she has said in the book, there are a lot of assumptions being made.
Yes.
That are probably a little dramatic, I think. But having said that, like and this is a bit of a trigger warning for sure, with sexual assault and whatnot. So she had been sexually assaulted, and I think because of that, I think I could see how she could see men as the enemy, because if you're ever in a situation where that happens and someone abuses you sexually, that is going to completely change the way that you look at probably the whole gender, to be honest. And as a female, like I myself have had instances where, you know, I'm walking alone at night and she mentions it and I fucking like completely agree with it and I've experienced it. You put your keys in between your fingers ready if someone fucking tries to grab you. Like, it's just something that we live a daily basis, not so much during lockdown, funnily enough, but if you're walking around on your own as a woman at night, the scariest thing you can encounter is a group of men. It's fucking terrifying. Like, you get catcalled, you are like on high fucking alert, and you just want to be away from that as soon as possible. So, you know, thankfully with Uber, it's made like getting in and out of situations a lot easier, as long as you have the money for it, obviously, to be able to just jump in a car and get the fuck out of there. But also I've had friends that have had really awkward encounters with Uber drivers as well. It's not great being a woman sometimes.
No, and leads that point. I mean, I don't want to brush over that because I want to touch a bit more on the assault and whatnot. But if we look at assumptions being made about the gender and the gender roles, you say that a woman coming across a group of men is terrifying, whereas, funnily enough, if you think about this, and it's kind of like a subconscious thing, a man going into a group of women, like that dude would be ecstatic. And it's just kind of, it's a weird assumption that we have that it's going to be one way or the other because of the gender roles there that are being played. It's
I mean, similarly to that, I can't remember who told it to me or where I heard it, but I remember when I was like younger and I was going out, when I turned like, so the legal drinking age in Australia is 18. I think in the US it's 21. But when I started going out when I was 18, I remember someone said to me, like, a woman will go out knowing if she's going to get laid, whereas a man can only go out and hope. And that always kind of stuck with me. And I was like, that's kind of fucked.
Fucked because it's like, what?
Like, it's basically saying that if a woman approaches a man, she's going to get a yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Whereas like a woman gets to be choosy. And it's like, is that it's just assuming that all men are like horn dogs and they'll take what they can get, which I don't think that's true at all. Like, men have standards.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well. So I'm obviously going into this discussion today.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be very, very, very careful about the way that I speak and the way that I represent the male, because I am a cisgender male, and that's one thing that I think you said to me you learned, is that didn't really 100% know what cisgender meant.
Yeah, I'd heard it thrown around a lot, but I just never really looked into exactly what it meant. So it just means that you identify with the gender that you were born as. So I was born female.
So the sex that
the sex.
So my gender is the same as the sex that I was born with. So for those that are listening that don't know, there are two sexes, which is defined genetically by your X and Y chromosomes.
Yeah.
So that defines what genitalia you're born with. So in terms of gender, though, that is how you identify in terms of your sex, whether or not
on the
you
spectrum,
are
which is
on the spectrum, because it is a spectrum. It is a spectrum. So me being born with male genitalia, I identify as a male. I am a cisgender male. Whereas if I were to identify as a female, I would be transgender female.
Yeah.
So I would like to be, in that case, I would be addressed with the pronouns she, her. Whereas me as a cisgender male, I would be pronounced he, him. And I suppose, that sort of covers some of the terminology used in the book there. And she does a very, very good job of explaining that too. I should note, she doesn't kind of go in preaching that people should know this. She does do a very good educational section on learning about that, based on assumptions as well. So don't ever assume that someone is anyway based on how they look, how they act or whatnot. So yeah. So I forgot how we got into this one. Males going out and females going out. Yeah. So I suppose if the thing is this I think comes from, this can stem to a lot of mental health type things. So a lot of men, I think, go through a lot of social anxieties in speaking to women growing up, if that makes sense. Now you can probably comment on this. Is it the same with women? Are women usually under a lot of social anxieties when they do want to try and meet someone of the sex that they're attracted to?
Yeah, I mean, if you have a crush on somebody, you're going to be nervous approaching them because ultimately, like, the nerves and the anxiety comes from a fear of rejection, right? So I don't think that's gender specific. I think, like, if a gay man was approaching a gay man, he would have the same anxieties as a straight man approaching a straight woman. Like, I think they'd be like, oh, what if they don't like me? Like, what if they say no? I'm scared to talk to them, because it's about rejection. It's not about
gender,
penises and vaginas.
Yeah.
To put it as bluntly as I can.
So I mean, and this is the thing. I'll answer this not answering on behalf of other cisgender males, but there was a time in my life that absolutely, if I received attention from anyone of the sex that I was attracted to, or the gender that I was attracted to, then I probably would have just gone with whomever.
Okay.
So I mean, during my nightclubbing days, etc., pretty Jeff slut, probably the best way to put it.
Did I use that word?
I was gonna say I wanted to take that opportunity there to move on to, I suppose, the connotations of that word. So promiscuous is another word, which is probably much more PC. Where we don't want to be slut shaming.
No.
So the reason why I used that term then was because it's automatically got a shame attached to it, which needs to be addressed as well. Yeah.
There's definitely double standards with that as well. So like a man, generally speaking, of course, men are generally praised for being promiscuous. Like, if a guy goes out and, over a weekend and sleeps with 3 different females, it's like, oh, bro, good job. That's fucking, sick. That's fucking, you get it, son. Like, get your dick wet. Woo. Like, whereas if a woman was to do that, she would automatically be called a slut. She would be, like, disgusting in the eyes of, like, most people, quote unquote. I think similarly, if, like, a woman is open about enjoying sex and not being ashamed of, like, masturbation and stuff like that, I think they're seen as, like, kinky and it's outrageous and whatnot, whereas a guy can quite easily, talk to their mates about watching porn and stuff, and it's not even a thing. I think that's, like, very double standards with men and women in regards to having, like, a casual sex life. And if a woman does it, it's promiscuous and it's kinky and it's, she's a slut, quote unquote. Whereas, for a man, it is a little bit different. And I think that needs to be spoken about more as well, because as long as they're doing it, as long as they're not hurting anybody, like if a woman wants to have a casual relationship with somebody, sleep with them on the weekends but not have a relationship, that's fine, but make sure that that person on the other end also knows that that's the situation. Like, you don't want to be leading people on and keeping them on the hook just to get your rocks off every weekend. Like, you need to be open and communicate with people, obviously with consent, like, first and foremost, but also with making sure people understand the situation.
Yeah. I think the big point on that is communication.
Yeah.
Because where I think a lot of the shaming or the anger from that sort of situation comes from is where someone feels like they're entitled to, they feel like there might be something more than just the casual thing going on, and they're personally offended by the other person's behavior, and that's where the anger comes from. So I think that could explain a little bit of it, but absolutely right. If as long as there's a consent, number one, number two, an understanding and communication about what's going on between those people, that's that, I think that's paramount.
Yeah. And obviously this is a generalization, like people in my chat are saying it depends on your friends. Of course, like, it depends on your circle. Not this is generalizing in terms of, like, what's said in the book. Not all people are like this. We're not saying every single person loves everybody being super like out there with their sex lives and whatnot. That's not what we're saying. This is in the context of how it's said in the book. And I think like while we're on the topic of consent, I feel like most people that are already here listening to it don't need to hear this, but no means no. And she says in the book, if you are, if you're with somebody in a sexual situation and you're 30 minutes in and you've done a bit of foreplay, but then they say, hey, I don't want to continue any further, you have to respect that. Just because...
People are allowed to change their minds.
Yeah, just because, they've gone along for the first part of the sexual encounter, that doesn't entitle you to continue it if they're uncomfortable. No matter what. No means no. So just fucking, respect that. And because then you're getting into actual like sexually abuse and rape territory, and you don't want to get involved in that.
And there is no physical or logical or ideological way for anyone to be asking for it.
But Jeff, she was wearing a mini skirt.
So
that has always like, I'm like, my chest is all broken out because I'm like so passionate about this shit. Yeah. But like, it. I'm getting fired up.
yeah, absolutely. Consent is consent. So anything but yes is a no.
Yeah.
I suppose. And it also applies to when, I suppose, under the influence as well. So if there's any drugs or drinking involved, assume a no.
Yeah.
That's just not, you can't consent if you are under any influence of anything.
Yeah.
That's not the person consenting.
Yeah, 100%.
So we kind of have to touch on that a lot and reinforce that point a lot.
Yeah.
Because we are at the point, and this is another point that she made, which I 100% agree with, and it did stir some thought for me, is that we're at a point in society where lines are so blurred that some people don't know that they've been raped, and some people don't realize that they are a rapist. So let that sink in for a bit, chat.
Yeah.
That's some people don't realize that they themselves are a rapist, and some people don't realize because they've been gaslit, they've been so emotionally abused that they don't realize they themselves are a victim of rape.
There's certain things like that I'm not willing to share just because of like privacy of the internet. But touching on that, like there are instances of my past where only until the last like couple of years have I realized that it was sexual abuse in a way, and I didn't realize at the time because I was kind of manipulated in the relationship. And upon like moving on and growing and listening to things like this, I was like, fuck, okay, like that's a thing that I went through, and I don't know if the person that instigated it necessarily knew what they were doing about it either, but I think it is definitely something that some people don't realize that they've gone through, and they do need to be educated on that and really understand that shit does happen, and you may not understand at the time when you're in the situation.
So so I suppose it's not just rape and sexual abuse, it's also emotional abuse. So very similarly, and this isn't something that I've kind of really brought up a lot, but I thought today was probably a decent time to I suppose draw the point, was that I absolutely I've been a victim of physical abuse in a past relationship, and I suppose it for me, and this is another very, very difficult point, being a male, being physically assaulted by a female, and I suppose me myself, and not to put humor on it, but I'm quite strong, and literally if I were to defend myself, if I were to sort of raise an arm to defend myself, there was every opportunity there that I would actually hurt back, just in defense of myself. And the way that is, and the way that that society is, and this is another assumption, and this is another unfair point in the way that genders are seen. If I had scratches and bruising and blood on me, but there was a mark on the woman, I would immediately be seen as like a female abuser. So I basically just had to stand and take it. And not do anything, and just leave with scars and scratches and bruises. I
think it is definitely something that happens a lot, and that men don't feel comfortable coming forward. Same as she said in the book, it was something like 2% of, what was it? It was like 2% of
1.9% of accused rapists
actually face consequences.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's fucked up. And that's why people don't want to come forward. And that's why victims don't want to come forward, because you see that with the whole Me Too movement, all these people coming forward and so many of them being met with like doubt and saying that it didn't happen. And how do you expect victims of any abuse, whether male or female or non-binary or whatever, how do you expect those people to come forward when they're immediately met with doubt and they're immediately met with, oh, that didn't happen, or you were probably asking for it, or, you know, you're a guy, you can't get abused by a woman. Like, it's just, we need to start believing victims and stop victim shaming. Like, when a victim of rape comes forward to the police, they're asked a myriad of questions of like, oh, did you definitely say no? Or, you know, were you intoxicated, or were you this, were you that? When these should be like asked to the actual fucking offender, not the victim.
Yeah, that's right. So there was some quite deep chapters there, which, again, I kind of had to get through, and like I said before, get over what I felt was a personal attack on me being a male, to be able to get through to these chapters, which weren't necessarily about, you know, feminism, women versus men kind of thing. They actually got onto, you know, consent, assault, emotional abuse, and defining genders, and the really good stuff, which I think everyone needs to be taught more of, or there needs to be a little bit more exposure to.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and obviously it stirred up some thoughts and some memories and some feelings for me as well. So that's, it's deep.
There was a lot, like, from a woman's perspective, I think, like, there's definitely no harm in the women out there or people that identify as women listening to this. I don't think it would do you any harm. If you're a guy, you might get a little bit of a bruised ego. You might feel a little bit like you're the enemy. And yeah, I think coming from a background of being sexually abused, it could definitely kind of skew your view of being like, men are evil and they can all fucking rot in hell, which I'm definitely sympathetic to, because I've been in situations where I've probably thought the same thing. It's so hard, because I don't know, like, I don't think men are the root of all the problems in the world. Definitely not. I have a lot of, like I said, like, I have a lot of great men in my life where they are sympathetic to, like, women's problems, and they're feminists in their own right. And I think it probably needs to be aggressive. It probably needs to make you feel uncomfortable as a man, because the day that, like, the shit that we go through on a daily basis is not comfortable. So, I mean, good. I'm glad you don't feel comfortable hearing about it, because it fucking sucks. Like, it sucks.
Yeah. That's right.
And I know that people really don't want to hear it, but women are still treated differently. Like, every single fucking day that I stream, it's, oh, hey, do you sell your underwear? Oh, hey, you're hot. Can I buy you a beer? Like, I don't exist on the internet for your fucking eyes. Like, I am a human being with my own agenda and my own wants and my needs and my dreams. And the first thing that anybody can think of to possibly compliment a woman on is, oh, you're pretty. Oh, you look nice. Like, no, I'm intelligent, I'm entertaining, I'm fun to be around, I'm hardworking. Like, I'm not lucky, I'm not pretty. I'm not here just to be fucking pretty. Like, and I think a lot of, like, the book really, like, made me feel that. Like, even though I've already felt it every fucking day, but I'm still just like, yes, just fucking stop calling me pretty. Like, it's so much more to me than fucking, like, my face. Like, Christ.
Yeah. Oh, no, I'd attest to that too, because I suppose with the fitness streams, I'll get a lot of, oh, wow, you're a beast. Wow, that workout's hard. That you're crazy. And then, like,
hey girl, nice butt. It's like, for fuck's sake. Like, nice, I work leggings, so hard, and that's all I get. Like, it's just, it's so insulting, because you could say that about anybody. That's not a compliment. You're just the lowest form of intelligence, and that's all you can fucking think to say. And it's
worse
like,
than asking about the weather.
And then it's like, oh, you're a bitch if I'm, like, not impressed with them calling me pretty. It's like, I'm not a fucking bitch. I have a brain, and I'm allowed to not want you to call me pretty. Like, I'm allowed to moderate the shit that gets said to me, because I have to come here on a daily basis. and I want to have a nice community. And if you come in and you're just like, hey, cool boobies, I'm going to fucking yeet you out of my chat because you're shit.
Yeah.
Like, I have the right to do that. You have the right to tell people how you want to be spoken to.
Yeah, so there's lots to this book. Now, I suppose if I were to wrap it up, and because I know Ranger James was asking for my opinion, because I think Ranger James is keen to get into it himself. Like what Grace said, I think the people that need to be reading this, or the people that need to be taught a lesson about the behaviors that go on in this book, they're not necessarily the ones that need to read this book, if that makes sense, because you guys kind of already know what bad behaviors need to be adjusted. I would, in terms of getting through a book, Ranger James, I would probably say, look, get through it. Even if it's just for resetting your point of reference, resetting your ego, hearing from someone, letting someone tell their story, I think is very important. And those last few chapters, I think you might agree with us in that the as a quick guide for life in terms of not making assumptions, learning about the gender spectrum, learning about privileges. Privileges is a big one. I really liked that section because I think it's like a lot of the book obviously is talking from the female perspective and talking about, you know, why it's been shitty and why it's hard being a woman, but it also does highlight the sections where she does have privilege. So I think that was really good for me as well. Like, I'm always trying to be self-aware of that kind of thing because especially during a pandemic, like I think it's definitely highlighted a lot of privilege that I have. Like, I'm so fortunate to be able to live and work in my house and not be affected by, you know, a pandemic that so many people are struggling with. And that's definitely made me like check my privilege a lot. Yeah.
And through the Black Lives Matter and stuff as well, like I am so aware that I have so much privilege as being a white Australian in a country where we are super fucking privileged here. And being straight as well, like I have so many people in my chat that are part of the LGBTQI+, and the shit that they face on a daily basis, like I can't even imagine. Like, obviously I face adversity being a female in a very male-dominant space, but, you know, being hated because of my sexuality isn't something that I have to face, and I am represented in every type of media being straight. And so there's definitely and privilege of class as well. Like I have a roof over my head, so automatically I have so much more privilege than a lot of people. So I think that definitely like brought me back to earth. I think listening to this, it was all very like girl power, yes, get him, like you fuck everybody else. And then it was like, okay, yeah, I do have like some really good things going on in my life that some people aren't fortunate enough to have. So yeah. That section of it definitely was like
nice. And even then, and this is where the feminism part of it dropped off, and talking about like ableism, where, you know what, you and I are stronger than most people, but how often is it that we think about, you know, someone in a wheelchair, how accessible is it for them to get even just to shops or things like that?
Yeah, so, like if we're like, hey, we're going to go do this on the weekend, we don't have to worry about wheelchair. I can't talk. I'm all like, I'm so mind-flooded right now. Like wheelchair accessibility and things like that. Like it's not something that even has to cross our minds, and that is definitely privilege for sure.
Yeah. So I did, so sort of to bounce back and forth here, I did want to, I suppose, touch on the fact that it can seem like she is, for lack of a better term, a bit of a killjoy, where she's saying basically everything that you do in your life is wrong, and everything that you're doing is based on some poor assumption by some male white person. But it is a good exercise to actually think about. And this is, for me, I made a point of this, and again, touching back on one of the ups and downs of the week. So I was in a pretty poor, anxiety-ridden state of mind. We played a game. I got salty. And I think it's basically just thinking about what's going on in people's lives.
Yeah.
And sensitivities and boundaries and things like that. What's going on? And just checking your privilege. It's there's so much. But yeah, bouncing back and forth between look, I'm flooded now.
I think just to take the reins so you can have a breathe, because I know this is like I'm like so passionate about this, and it's it's something that I do kind of struggle with on a daily basis. And I can't always talk about it because people, like, I'm not going to bring it up every single day and be a killjoy, like you said. But another part that I really liked about it was, like, not making assumptions. So, and it's something that we've seen a lot of because it's kind of a hot topic at the moment, like the gender reveal parties. It's like, cool. So if it's a boy, it's blue smoke. And if it's a girl, it's pink smoke. And I think, like, that is so ingrained. You know, what color are you going to paint the baby's nursery? Like, if it's blue, if it's a boy, whatever. So I think, like, she did a really great section about assumptions and not making assumptions. Like, instead of trying to take a guess, if you see, like, if your friends have had a new child and you don't know the gender, instead of being like, oh, she's a really cute, just say they. Like, it's a gender neutral term. Just get used to saying they, and just get used to having more neutral pronouns and ways of addressing people, just to be aware of it, to make people feel more comfortable. It's really such a tiny adjustment, and it can make such a big difference. With,
you know what, this actually just brought to mind a quick anecdote from the week where the whole what's the word, the acceptance of someone's religion. This can be done. This can be taught to people, the acceptance of gender roles and picking your gender, where I went to admit my lad into the hospital, and they did all they needed to medically, but then someone pulled me aside and had to do all the admin work. And the lady at the desk there was like asking me all the questions, okay, date of birth, yada yada yada, and then she got to religion. What religion is he? And I said, there's nothing that I can note there. And she looks at me and goes, good, we'll let him choose when he wants to figure that out. I'm like, that was fantastic. Like, her response to that was really bloody cool.
Yeah.
Because that's the same sort of thing that's I think what we want to aim for when it comes to, I suppose, gender as well. And you're going to ask a 3-year-old what gender are they?
Yeah.
Or whatever. Like, we're not going to make assumptions about it. Instead, they're going to go, look,
let them figure it out in their own time. Yeah.
Let them build their own identity.
Yeah. I think, there was a section as well, like, with marriage, and I think most people that follow me know that I'm, like, pretty anti-marriage. I just don't think it really matters. I think it's a really old mindset, and I don't think it is something that should be your life goal, because it's not meaningless. I don't want to like make anybody feel bad. If you're married, cool, that's awesome, I'm happy for you guys, like, that's fantastic. But I think it is something that, as a female, is like, okay, so by 30 you want to be married, you want to be starting to have kids. Like, there's kind of expectations with a female and how they're supposed to live their life, and she does talk about it in the book as well. Like, it kind of makes me, am I a bad woman because I don't want to get married and I don't really think that I want to have kids? Like, I have this body that has capabilities of having children, and I have to freaking go through a thing every single month that is, like, preparing me for that, but I don't think that I want that for myself. And, like, I'm constantly fighting against that. Like, people come into my chat asking me unwarranted questions like, oh, your husband's lucky, or, you know, this, that, and the other. And it's like, how is that relevant to my life?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to get married, and that's okay. I don't have to. If you want to get married and you want that for you, awesome. But I honestly wouldn't feel right getting married in a world where not everybody can. And some people get fucking killed because of their sexuality preferences in some countries, which is fucking ridiculous. Like, that's a whole other topic, I think, marriage.
Yeah. Absolutely. She skimmed over it very quickly. And I think she fit a lot of points about marriage into one paragraph, which could each have its own half-hour chat, basically. It's yeah. For sure. So Mary Amber's in chat here, and she just brought up a point there. The marriage thing does matter if you're not allowed to move out unless you're married. So that's a huge.
Whose rules are that? Is that a religious thing?
That's a traditional European thing,
right?
And the laughing point there is that I said it's an interesting discussion point, and she says they don't discuss because they're traditional European folks. That's her parents, absolutely. So I understand that. I understand that, Mary, because I've got friends with very traditional European parents. So it's absolutely an issue that's going to affect people's lives. And whether or not you, I suppose, not succumb, but whether or not you want to decide that you're going to take control of yourself, or you're going to keep the peace, or whether it's something in between on that spectrum, it's very difficult, and I'm not going to tell anyone my own advice in that section at all. It's quite tricky. It's quite tricky.
Yeah, I mean, I've had pretty bad influences, I suppose, in terms of marriage. Like my parents broke up when I was in year 12, so 2009 I think it was. My parents didn't belong together, and I mean, I'm obviously grateful that I'm here. So I'm glad that they were together at some point, but they weren't made to be together, and it was a very messy divorce with lots of hatred and lots of broken glasses around the house and lots of arguments and lots of crying. And it's just, seeing that as my role model for marriage has just completely like turned me off of that. And I can definitely see how it's like, some people see it as like a magical thing and a celebration of your love, and that's awesome. Like I'm going to go to my friend's wedding when they get married, and I'm happy for them. I'm going to an engagement party this weekend, so I'm like, cool, good on you. Like if you want to do that, sick. But yeah, it's not for me, and that's okay. I'm allowed to not want to do it, and I shouldn't have to be asked every fucking other time I stream why I don't like marriage. And why I don't have kids at 28, because my time's running out. My womb's gonna start getting fucking cobwebs.
Yeah, which again, to be the devil's avocado there, with the Asian parents, it was almost like a, where are your kids? Are you having kids? Go have kids, kind of thing. Like,
yeah,
ugh, okay, so.
Yeah. Men definitely still get that kind of thing as well.
Yeah.
As a married couple, we get similar assumptions re kids. Yeah, it's like if you get married, you're expected that kids are a couple years down the track. That's not for everybody. It's a fucking huge responsibility.
It's a huge thing. Yeah.
You have to go pick them up when they get sticks in their eyes. Fucking way too much.
Exactly.
But they're probably not going to rip the underside of the couch out and eat all the fucking balls. Actually, maybe they would. Maybe they would.
So when you were posting those photos in Discord,
you're just like, Grace, that's cute.
No, yeah, it reminded me of a time. So my father was a bit of an audiophile. This is story time with Jeff, and this happens all the time. But my father was an audiophile, so he had lots of like really expensive big speakers around the house when I was growing up. And back in those days, there were some really, really good speakers made with paper cones. And obviously at that age, I was learning how to draw on things with a pencil and paper. And I started drawing on speakers, and I found they made a really funny noise if I actually poked the pencil through the speaker cone. So, just having the visions of the kittens tearing holes in the bottom of your furniture just reminded me of me poking holes in my father's expensive speakers.
No.
So, yeah, kids will do things.
Yeah. So, I mean, as a whole, what did you think of the book? And would you recommend it, I suppose, being a pick of the week?
Being the pick of the week, I would...
Also, would you believe it's been like an hour 40?
No, it hasn't. Oh, wow. Okay. So I wouldn't recommend it as a pastime, but I would actually... What's the word?
As like a thought experiment?
Yeah.
Like a point of contention?
There's another word for recommend. It's not recommend. I would advise. I would advise people of all genders and all sexualities and all races to take in the content. I would definitely advise people not to take this as gospel. Because the other thing that came to mind was that I've heard a lot of this type of language before that she uses, and the way that she words things and the way that she actually, because it is actually Florence that reads the audiobook.
Yep.
The way that she does enunciate and the way that she presents herself, a lot of it is very much the way that cult leaders will speak. Or religious leaders will speak. They are very persuasive, and they'll use different forms of persuasion. So definitely take this in, but don't take it in as gospel. Don't take it in as she is right about everything and you need to follow her law. But take it in as a perspective and use it as a little bit of a guide to look at your own behaviors and just check in with yourself. Check your ego, check your behaviors, check your privilege.
Yeah.
And yeah, definitely that would be my recommendation, would be to take this in as a piece of content by someone that's going to have some different ideas to you. And that's what life's all about, is learning different perspectives.
Yeah. I definitely think going in with an open mind and being aware, especially if you're listening to it as a man, you're probably going to feel a little attacked in the beginning portions. And you know, if you can get past that and not automatically just think that she's evil and she hates you, then start to sympathize with her situation, understand why she may feel the way she feels towards a specific gender.
I'm also glad that we touched base halfway through reading it, because
Yeah.
you said something to me that stuck, and it was basically saying it was something along the lines of, this isn't for you.
Yeah.
This isn't written for you. So don't bite back with, oh, but men go through this. Oh, but men go through that. So after we spoke about that, I kind of, every time I caught myself thinking, oh, but men, stop.
Yeah.
And just let it sink in. Don't answer back. Listen to understand. Don't listen to reply. Is the way to take this one in.
Yeah. And I think there are parts, like you said, she does kind of contradict things in the book. So in the start, it kind of feels like she's saying, like, you don't need a relationship, you don't need men in your life, because she is bisexual as well. And I think she was in a long-term relationship with a man who treated her like shit. So I think, and it took a long time for her to identify with herself and be comfortable with her bisexuality. So I think for a long time she was kind of just trying to play the straight card and just like be that, because she didn't want to accept that she was bisexual and that she had to start to face those adversities with her sexuality. Because that, I mean, I haven't experienced that, but I can imagine that's a really tough path to cross. And she did mention it also being bisexual rather than just, you know, like being a female who is gay and just interested in women. It's like once you come out, people kind of get it because you're only dating women. But she said as bisexual, because she dates any gender, she's constantly having to come out to people because, you know, sometimes they'll see her with men and sometimes her with women, and people are like, what the fuck? It's like, yeah, I'm bisexual. I'm interested in all genders. Like, and that's something obviously I've not experienced. So I can't really identify with that, but I can totally understand why that's difficult for sure.
Yeah.
Treat it not as a comparative exercise.
Yeah. So Mary Amber says she is wrong. Everybody needs Cat Amber in their life. So I suppose that was one of the points that I wanted to make, is that she does, and I agree that everyone needs to learn to live with themselves and love themselves as a single unit. She uses language like, you need to make sure that you are a whole, or you're a complete by yourself. But I don't think she touches much on, I suppose, if you are in a good relationship, how good that is. So that's, I did want to make a point of that, but and that's where Mary Amber's coming from. She's obviously found herself a very, very good relationship, and that kind of that accentuates the good parts of life. Whereas what she says, if you are in a subpar relationship, don't waste your time on it.
I mean, I think it's, to be a devil's advocate, I think it's important. Like, I think it's more important to encourage people to be okay on their own than it is to be like, maybe one day you'll find a really great relationship, because that definitely seems like a little out of reach for people if they're not in one already. So I think highlighting and being like, you're not half a person, because something that's always triggered me is people being like, oh, this is my other half, and it's like, you're not half a person and they're not completing you as a person. You are your own person. You are amazing. You can do whatever the frick you want to do, and that's perfect. If you find somebody that complements you and you can work together as a team and have a good partnership and respect each other and treat each other with respect and have boundaries and all that kind of good stuff, sick. But that's not something that everybody's going to have. And if you can't find that and you are just on your own, then that's okay.
No shame. There's no shame.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like, oh, you're single? Like, no, I'm just me.
Yeah.
I'm not single. I don't need somebody else. Like, I'm just me. And that's fine. And I think it's good that she touched on that. It did seem at the start like she was saying you never need a relationship, but then later on she does start to talk about like good partnerships and whatnot.
I think she elaborates on it better. I was going to say turned around, and she didn't turn around. She just elaborated on the point a little bit better.
Yeah, and there was a little section at the end where she had like people write in questions as well that she took from her Instagram, whatever. And there was a woman that said like, I feel like I'm a bad feminist or a bad woman because I'm in a relationship that is probably toxic or not great. And she's like, that doesn't make you like a bad woman. You just need to, you know, kind of try to take control of the situation and do what's right for you as a person. There's something else that I forgot to mention as well. There's so much in this book that keeps just coming to mind. So for me as well, there were parts where I kind of started to feel like, well, am I a bad female? Am I a bad feminist? Because I like to do makeup and I like to be creative and I like to, you know, accentuate my appearance because I do a lot of on-camera work. So like, am I a bad feminist? Should I be showing up with no makeup on, like, to be a good, like, strong, empowered woman? But I think she kind of touched on that again later. Like, it started to make me kind of question my ideals, because in the past, like, one of my exes was, whenever I had no makeup on, he'd kind of be like, oh, are you tired? Or are you feeling okay? Or like, you look like shit or whatever. And then when I put my makeup on, he'd be like, oh, you look human again. And it kind of like started to make me feel like I could only be around him if I had like a full face of makeup. And I don't feel like that's why I do makeup and stuff for stream. Like, I'm not coming on stream to get compliments from people in chat, because I shut them down immediately. Like, as soon as someone's like, oh, you're pretty, I'm like, fuck off. Like, I don't want to hear that. Like, I enjoy doing makeup because for me, like, my personality on stream is like an accentuation of who I am off screen. So like, I mean, you've hung out with me a lot off screen, and I'm not like, what's up everybody, yeah, woo, welcome. Like, I'm not super high octane all the time.
Yeah, well, I think it's important to note that people on Instagram, influencers, people on YouTube, etc. We are different people off stream.
I'd be so annoying if I was as loud as I am on stream, off stream.
Yeah.
Like, it's not an act, but it's an accentuation of who I am off screen. So having the ritual of like doing my hair and makeup in the morning, it's kind of like me getting into the zone and getting ready for my day and hyping myself up. Like, I'll watch something fun, or I'll listen to some really hype music and get myself in the zone to be like, all right, it's stream time. It's time to put on a show. And yeah, listening to it and hearing her talk about makeup and stuff, and it's like, oh, we only wear makeup because we want men to look at us. And I'm like, we only
shave ourselves, etc.
I shave my armpits because if I don't and the hair gets long, I get heaps sweaty and I smell. Like, I don't like the feeling of body hair, and it's not because society has been like, you're not allowed to have underarm hair. Like, but then I'm like, is it? Do I think that I just do it because of that, or is it because society's just fucked my brain up, or like, it definitely made me like, ooh, okay.
Yeah, so that's a point, is that I started thinking about, well, what actually is right? Well, do I like these things because I like them, or do I like them because I've been told to like them? So there was a lot of that going on in my head.
Yeah.
Do I like certain things because that's what's in magazines and that's what's in advertising? Has this been pushed onto me? Am I actually my own person? I don't know. So,
I mean, does anybody really know? We're all just stepping our way through, right? But it definitely did bring up some really interesting like thoughts, and because at first it felt like she was saying, if you care about your appearance, you're vain and you're a bad like feminist or whatever. But then she's saying like, you know, if women want to, you know, have plastic surgery or go and get their brows waxed or their legs waxed or whatever, it's okay to take advantage of things that society have pushed onto us to get further, because if you look cute and if you are polite and stuff, then you're going to have a more pleasant day at your job. It's kind of fucked that that's the case. Like, I remember when I would go to work, and if I didn't have enough time to do my makeup, I'd get to work and be like, oh, are you feeling okay? You look really tired. I'm like, I just don't have makeup on. Like, fuck's sake.
I've got a couple of people in chat. So Mary Amber's still here.
Yeah.
And Mary Amber, I think you'll relate to this a lot, Grace. She's saying she's literally going to remove her arm hair because she gets so many people in chat commenting on it.
Wow.
I don't care what they think, but the endless comments are so dang annoying. And like that, see, the problem with that, Mary, is that I'm sure if people were well behaved enough and they weren't jerks and they weren't sort of pushing an image onto you, you wouldn't be annoyed. They wouldn't be making comments that would annoy you. But the fact is that you wouldn't have thought any less of your own arm hair. It's just that there are people annoying you about it.
Yeah.
So that's really a kind of behavior that has to be, because what is it? Why is it that people are not even armpit hair? It's arm hair.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, I know it's a big culture in Japan. Like when I stayed in Japan for 18 days or something when I was in year 11, when I was 15, and every night my host sister had an epilator to her arm hair. Every night. She'd just sit there and be like, meh. And I was like, what the? It's a big thing in Asian culture to be completely hairless. Apart from their private areas, actually. They get rid of hair everywhere else, but not there, which is interesting.
And that, I think that displays that a lot of these quote unquote preferences are actually culturally taught. They're from culture, and they're from how we're raised and how we're taught by our elders. Because if it's different in Japan than it is to here, then there's something going on with the way that people are raised, and that's a whole other psychological can of worms we could open up.
Even in school though, like, you know, boys at my school weren't allowed to have hair past their ears or something like that. It's ridiculous. They weren't allowed to have long hair, or they weren't allowed to have coloured hair, or we weren't allowed to have nail polish or any types of makeup, and it was like we were put in this box and we just had to conform to it. Like, you weren't allowed to, I mean, it was kind of good not letting females wear makeup, I suppose, because it was trying to, like, just let us be ourselves rather than having to feel like you had to make yourself up every single day just to be presentable. But yeah, I think, I don't know, it's so hard to, obviously we don't know everything, but like, it's hard to know why we believe, and like as Pappy said, it's what's been conditioned in you is such a hard subject to go into, because you don't know why you believe some of the things you do. It's just something that's been drilled into you since you're born, and the way your parents have raised you. And like, I like to think that my parents are relatively open-minded, but the older that I get and the more that I clash with them over certain things in politics, I realize maybe not.
And that's the thing, like when you're a child, you put your parents on a pedestal, so all of their values seem like they're godlike values to you, and that's what you try to aspire to. So and again, Mary Amber's saying she didn't even think of it before, and I hope I don't have to remove it daily. Like even the idea of you
having to do that just to stop people being
comments.
assholes. It's so hard to.
That's what this book tries to address. I think that's the problem that is being getting so angry about. In this book.
I think it's something that, like, those types of ideals, like I've been making gaming content since 2012. So in the 8 years that I've experienced it, I've not seen any attitude shift in, oh my God, a girl gamer. It's still a thing. And I think it's something that unfortunately we may not see in our lifetime, is those kind of gender roles and expectations of women changing that much, because it is so old. It's such an old, like, boomer mentality of, like, the woman has to do all the cooking and the cleaning, and you know what it's like when a girl's like, oh, my boyfriend made me dinner. It's like this big deal. It's like, what do you dudes cook? It's not that crazy.
I love to cook.
Like, it shouldn't be this huge thing that a guy can cook something. Like, it's it just, I don't know. I have a few female friends where I'm like, they just accept the most basic kindness as like a monumental occasion that has to be posted on social media. It's like, standards are so low. But like good humanity in general, like someone gets greeted in my Twitch chat and they're like, whoa, the kindness. It's like, it's just being nice. Mutual respect. Like, it's such a, bums me out.
So, bums you out.
Makes me sad. I don't like that people feel like they have to change. Like Mary Amber, that makes me so like, so frustrated that you feel like just to avoid some obnoxious comments in chat, you're now going to put in, X amount of time in your day to remove hair on your arms. Like, my arms are hairy, and when I get tattooed, she has to shave the fuck out of my arms because I have hairy arms. Whoa! Oh no, I'm undateable. I got hairy arms. Oh no! Like, that's so triggering. And like, if I post a fitness photo, it's like, oh, I don't like big muscles on females,
I don't like muscly women.
I don't like tattoos on girls. It's like, dude, guess what? I don't give a fuck what you think of my body. I'm not here for you to judge my body. Just because I post something on the internet and you have the ability to reply doesn't mean you're allowed to share your opinion, because I don't need it. I don't need to fucking hear it.
I suppose the other side of that is that if someone wants to shave themselves in a certain way,
do it.
Kind of just let them be. Let them do the thing.
Yeah, if you want to have smooth legs, cool. Do it. If you're doing it for you, not because of
I'm not even a cyclist.
Society,
I'm gonna do it.
Then awesome. Like, it's I like having smooth legs. It just feels nice. I like to put them on the sheets and you're like, woo, they feel smooth.
I once shaved my legs for cycling and it felt amazing.
Feels sick. Yeah, I don't know. But then it makes you wonder. It's like, do you think it feels nice because people are
different.
gonna like not look at you and be like, ugh, weird, lick it. Like, yeah, it's fucking crazy. Who knows?
Yeah, that's right.
Because I definitely like, it definitely like, I really hate, like, obviously objectively I'm a good looking female, whatever, quote unquote, like whatever. And I've probably had privilege because of my appearance, because objectively I'm a good looking person. I don't know how to say it without sounding like I'm like full of myself. And it's weird that you can't take pride in yourself without sounding like a fucking obnoxious asshole. But like, I definitely have experienced, because when I was younger, I was like a huge tomboy, right? And so I always wanted to buy boys' clothes and stuff like that. I never felt like I identified as a male, but I just liked to be understated, I think, and be like a little bit hidden, because I was kind of shy as well. So I didn't want to be like prancing around in little cute like pink dresses and have attention on me, because I was just like, I just want to like play games and just like not be looked at and just fuck off kind of thing. And so I kind of dip in and out that. So like there's parts of me where like I've always really got along with guys because I've had a lot more in common with them. But I think through the internet, I've definitely met a lot more females who have more in common with me as well. Like for a long time, I felt like I can't connect to girls because I don't know anything about them and I don't really have any of the similar interests. But I think it was less about like getting along with a gender and just having the wrong types of people around me, like having people around me that like horror movies and like video games and like fitness and stuff. Like I've just bonded with people over my shared interests rather than necessarily, oh, you have boobs and I have boobs, let's be friends. Like, and she said it in the book as well, like you're allowed to dislike females, but not purely because they're female. Like you don't have to like every female. You don't have to lift up and boost up every single female just because they're a female. Like, there was something as well I remember you wanted to talk about was the like consuming media so she said like basically if you look at your social media and you only follow white people, then you should make an effort to go out and seek content from people of color and buy things from people of color. I know that you wanted to talk about that.
I understand her sentiment there. And what she's saying is that in the world of content creation, we're often fed a lot of things, and I think she was on a bit of a chat about how a lot of people only take in content because it's from their preferences or they're sort of male or white or whatever. But I suppose I've learned this as part of the fitness journey that I've been on. We do have a lot more power over what we take in than what we kind of think. Like we can all have a laugh about, the algorithms feeding us certain things. But I don't think it's necessarily fair to be saying you need to subscribe to these feeds because they're run by people not of your privilege, or they're run by people of color and they're run by people of different genders. Because to me, and I think you mentioned this to me as well, it does feel a little bit like when companies have to meet a quota of hiring females or hiring other ethnicities, et cetera. Yeah. Because it does feel like that you're giving people a chance just because you need to.
Yeah.
I definitely
it's a little disingenuous,
because to be honest, when I take in something from like a fitness magazine or from a company, again, I don't care who's on the board. If it's, I'm not looking at it and going, cool, they're all white people, this is for me. Like, I never think of it like that. And I think,
sorry.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, if it happens to be that way, it's not because I chose it. And I'm gonna consume the content that I like that's gonna help me meet my goals.
And I think it's less about like actively going out and seeking, like, oh, I don't follow any people of color, so I'm going to go follow 5 people of color, like, so that I can feel good about myself. Like, that's disingenuous. But I think instead of doing that, I think maybe look within and be like, okay, why do I only follow white dudes? Why don't I follow anything else? And what has led to me only seeking out that content or only finding that content? And maybe it's something to do with the advertisements that are shoved in your face. Maybe like the people making the adverts are racist and they're not putting forth people of color, and maybe that's something that you need to tackle rather than being like, okay, I'm gonna go follow this guy because he's Asian and now I'm gonna have like diversity. It's like and I think it's a bit like this book where I say go check it out,
it's not gospel. It may not appeal to you, but check it out because it's someone else's perspective. And I think that's what she would probably have been a better thing to say is don't go out and follow things because they are made by more diverse people. Go and check them out and just have a look and see if you like it. And if you like it, there's a whole new world of things there that you may not realize has been out there for you.
Yeah. Someone saying, but this is life, we're all just human and stuff. That doesn't give you the right to be a shit person.
and what I want to say to that is that bad things happen when good people do nothing.
Yeah.
So if you're just going to sit back and say,
well, that's life.
But this is it.
People are going to be marginalized. Oh, well, like you're part of the problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. If you can't just sit back and say, this is how it is, you can have a think about it. You can have some good conversations about it and you can potentially change some behaviors.
Yeah.
But just sitting back and accepting things.
That's why things haven't changed, because people do just sit back and accept things.
Yep.
And people, lazy. And you know, all the richest people in the world, all the people that are CEOs, generally speaking, are white dudes, and there's a reason why that is, and that's why things need to change.
Yep. Yeah. No, that's we've covered a lot. There's a lot more in the book.
So much.
And I think we've done an okay job at kind of staying on topic. It's obviously not in the order that we spoke about things, but I think it also helps to join things together in a different way as well. So nice. How are you feeling with putting a fork in that one?
Yeah. It was a lot. I think
yes.
I think I probably vocalized everything that I wanted to say, and I think we kept level enough heads. Those sections where I could feel my heart starting to race. I need to just take a second. So thank you for taking over the conversation. I need to compose myself.
I felt that too. Okay.
But I think it's good. I think this stuff needs to be tackled because it's not going to change if we just sit by and be like, let's play games and pretend that life is perfect.
But this is life.
Yeah. Well, we're in a pandemic, so I'm allowed to be a garbage human being because I'm struggling in ISO. Yeah, so are we. So is fucking everybody. Everybody's going through it right now. Everybody's facing adversity in one way or another. Every single day they fucking wake up and get out of bed. So we're allowed to talk about it, and we're allowed to have our opinions, and we're allowed to voice those. You don't have to necessarily agree with them, but this is a thought experiment. This was a discussion. This was a book that we both consumed. If you guys would like to listen to it or read it yourself, it's called Women Don't Owe You Pretty by Florence Given. As we said, it's confronting in the first few chapters. It lightens up a little bit towards the end, but I mean, what's the saying? Comfort stunts growth.
Comfort stunts growth. Yep.
Yeah, things don't change when you're comfortable. So maybe put yourself in a situation where you're not comfortable and try to see something from somebody else's perspective, whether it's a woman's perspective or someone who's bisexual or, you know, whatever, someone that has different privileges than you, and check your own privilege and be aware that, you know, if you're here on Twitch and you're listening, or you're listening on any type of podcast and you have a device that can stream a podcast, you have privilege.
Yes.
So be aware of it and not like shame yourself for having it, but just be aware of it and be aware that there are people around you that maybe when you think you're having some friendly banter with them aren't super happy about it because they're going through some shit.
Yep.
I think that's a good little 100%. Bow to put on that.
Yes. Raven is just saying thanks, Grace, for sharing despite the emotional toll of doing so. So and
thanks, Raven.
Mary says that she mostly follows cats, which is that's a
good time.
Yes. Nice.
Cool.
Nice.
So that's not where the show ends, even though it's been 2 hours.
So this one, because it's been so long, I will keep this one snappy. So we can move on to the next topic of Pipe Up, which is one of the topics that we do want to keep in every week.
Yeah.
The fitness section.
Yeah.
So
and there's something that I learnt this morning watching GIF on stream is that you're contemplating getting qualified in nutrition. I mean, I knew you were contemplating it, but I didn't know you were actually thinking about taking the steps.
Yeah. So taking the steps. So one of the I think there were probably 3 people that contacted me in the last 3 days, just over Discord DMs, asking about nutrition, asking about how you can supplement your physical activity in a healthy lifestyle with nutrition.
I swear it's something that comes up more than workout stuff. Like whenever you do question
which
time,
I'm happy about.
so much of it is nutrition based. And it's,
Yes,
it's just,
yes.
I think more and more it's getting highlighted and we're like, probably need to get qualified.
Now, the reason why, I think one of the reasons why it is because, I mean, you can go anywhere and you can pick up a workout routine. You can go to the gym, you can get a PT, you can go online, you can go on YouTube, you can find workout routines, and the more that you try, you're most likely to find something that's going to work for you. But to be honest, if you're up and moving, you're going to feel the benefits of that. You're going to get stronger. You're going to lose weight. You're going to burn calories. Oh, you're not going to lose weight. So I'll take that back. You're going to become stronger. You're going to become more mobile by literally just getting up and moving. Now, when it comes to nutrition, there's lots and lots of different things to try there, but not everything is going to work.
Yeah.
And I think that this has definitely been taken advantage of in the market by people putting diets together.
100%.
Now, D is a bad word for me. Diet.
Yeah.
The word diet is bad.
It just automatically, when you hear the word diet, you think like I have to cut things out or I have to hate it, basically.
Yeah.
Like a diet is a
exactly.
negative word.
Yeah, and realistically, we need to take that word back for what it is. The word diet is literally just the word to describe that everything that you eat. That's what's in my daily nutrition is my diet.
That's normally what I'll say is like daily nutrition or eating habits rather than saying diet, because immediately people are like, oh, you're on a diet, like, ugh.
Yeah. And the thing is, attached to that word, people they'll put a time frame on it. They'll say, okay, I'm on a diet and I'm going to be on this diet for the next 6 weeks and then I can go back to normal. And quotation, in quote, normal to them is eating shit.
Yeah.
Because that's what you're used to. And so again, it's about changing the normal. It's about changing what is in your life. And the thing that a lot of people ask me about is how they can change their nutrition to help either lose weight or put weight on or do whatever. And the things that I hear about are things like keto or intermittent fasting. Or so I've got a transformations little command in my chat there, where there's a picture. I won't bring it up, but I'll put a link into our podcast notes when it does. Yeah. So when that goes live.
Can you just link it to me now on Discord so I can post it in mine?
Yeah, it won't be a sec. If I go transformations, that one, it should pop up.
My mum used to have a magnet that said never trust a skinny cook, and it's funny because my mum's hella skinny. I think my grandma bought it for her or something. It was like amazing. Snarky.
So that link there that shows me going from like as a 30-year-old man that's lived my whole life, eating poorly, not exercising, just treating my body really, really badly. I lost 50 kilograms in the space of 18 months.
Yeah.
Now, I want to make a huge point here in that I did not do any keto. I did not do any intermittent fasting. I didn't follow any fad diet with that. All that I did, and this is what I want to make a point of now, all I did was count my calories. So I didn't change the foods that I was eating. I was actually, and see, this is the thing, when people say, oh, I can't lose weight because I have a family, so I have to eat the same food as my family. Guess what? I had a family. I had young kids. I had a partner that was often cooking the food. All I did was change the portion size.
Yeah.
So I bought myself a set of scales. I counted the calories, and this is the other thing that I noticed is that when people ask me about nutrition, I am fully qualified to tell them that it's a case of calories in versus calories out.
Yeah.
And I can say, count your calories and you will lose weight. And then they speak to me again in 3 weeks' time and they say, hey, Jeff, what about this intermittent fasting that I've heard about? And I said, how have you been going with your calorie counting? I haven't done it. I haven't.
Yeah.
There's your problem. So I lost all of my weight, and I know countless people that have lost all of their weight, not by following intermittent fasting, not by changing their windows, not by ketoing, not by switching to cheese, bacon, and eggs, but by literally just changing the amount that they ate in a portion.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same as fitness. People, they don't want necessarily the right path. They want the easy path, and they see, like Mr. Plow said, there's so many random diets or plans on the internet, and there's thousands of people that are like, I lost 30 kilos on Weight Watchers or this, and it's all just clickbait. It's constantly, you know, being shoved in your face. If I go on Twitter, I have so many ads that pop up. It's intermittent fasting, and it shows like an overweight person shrinking down into a skinny person, and it's like intermittent fasting. It's like, it's constantly being shoved in your face because, I mean, like we've spoken about in the book, so much of our lives are our appearance and people feeling comfortable in their own skin and body image and everything. And like social media and advertising and stuff 100% is going to take advantage of this because they can make money out of it. So they're going to try and sell you the latest fad diet. They're going to sell you like a 3-week booty band fucking thing that's going to make your ass huge, which is not going to work. Like, it's just, you know, it's all clickbait. A lot of what you see in social media and what you see in advertisements is not backed by science. It's not accurate. It's literally just a penny grab. And it's super fucking toxic.
Yeah.
And like Judy said, it's a big feeder for eating disorders. Absolutely.
Yeah, and so that's again, it's unfortunately capitalism, and this comes from the book as well. Capitalism leads to a lot of these issues where businesses are trying to sell you certain things that aren't in your best interest. You have to look out for your interests when you are consuming things, whether that's down to diet plans or even just the food that you buy. I like to tell this story that while I was in America, something happened with my bank account and all I had was $3 in my pocket, but I was able to get for $3 a bowl of chowder served in a like one of those cob buns, a blueberry and cheese bagel, and an endless large soda for $3, which is just ridiculous for how much calories you get for the dollars.
Yeah,
but that was completely within my control. Like, that was completely within my control and my choice to make that my meal for the day or whatever. So it's all about trying to not succumb to, number one, the things that are trying to be sold to you. And also just to take a think about, okay, what is their drive behind this idea being pushed to me? And you know what? There are some really, really good benefits to intermittent fasting. There are some
100%.
really good benefits to keto. Now, keto, ketosis...
Can I just butt in for 1 sec?
Yeah.
I just want to read what Rob wrote in the chat. He said, regretfully, I have to go to bed, but that was absolutely amazing. Nothing will change as long as the people perpetuating the status quo aren't confronted. Every conversation about what is an extremely difficult subject is a massive step in the right direction. As a deeply concerned father of 2 teenage girls, I'd like to say a heartfelt thank you to both of you. Thanks,
You're welcome, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, absolutely.
It means a lot.
Thank you. Yeah.
It was hard, but I'm glad we did it. I'm still like hot.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, that's a lot of these ideas are being normalized. So if I, like, funnily enough, I go to my office and there are many people there on different sorts of diets. There's people there on the IF, there's people there on keto, there's people on both. Because those two things have really come into fruition, I suppose.
Why do you think they've become so popular all of a sudden?
So the reason...
Because keto's... Do you want to talk about... Because I think I just interrupted you when you were talking about it. So keto is actually intended for...
Keto was never designed as a weight loss regime, as a weight loss diet. The things that it was trying to work on... So diabetes and epilepsy... Two very different diseases, but they both look at blood sugar. They both work on glucose. So diabetes is where the insulin or parts of your body can't create enough insulin, or you don't have the insulin response to actually take care of the glucose in your blood. And epilepsy is when all of the neurons in your brain fire, and your brain uses glucose as a fuel. So the ketogenic diet was actually developed to see if there was going to be any effect on starving the body of carbs, of glucose. And what they found was that it actually had some really good effects on people with diabetes, because their body now didn't have to react to carbs or simple sugars entering their bloodstream, and so suddenly they're in a much better place. Same with kids with epilepsy. If all of the neurons in their brain fired at the same time, because they were starved of the the preferred fuel, it was having some very, very strange effects. So what happens instead is that your body starts to rely on what they call ketones. That's when fats get digested into certain chemicals, which you can use as a fuel. So it was never designed as a diet to drop body fat. It's
just been like bastardized to become that.
A lot of the marketing that I hear is that, hey, if you stop eating carbs and you just digest fats, then your body can digest fats, and all of that fat on your body is going to be digested. And it's like,
do you think it's just because people like the idea of being able to eat bacon?
Absolutely.
And they're just like, woo, I can eat all this shit that I want.
I can eat all this. It's the same as the carnivore diet. People start, oh man, I can eat steak and I can eat all this meat. And then what happens? You get scurvy.
Like James Blunt.
Like James Blunt. Yeah. So it's I just want to put it out there that my transformation, and it's not just me. There have been countless other people that I've worked with and trained with that have lost so much weight without following a fad diet. The point that I wanted to bring home today is that you need to count calories. Counting calories is not scary. It can be a little bit difficult to learn how to do, but the number one thing that I want people to do, if you take anything away from this fitness Q&A today, is to download an app called MyFitnessPal.
It's free mostly. Like there's a premium thing that makes it a bit easier to use, but you can absolutely use it for free without spending money on it.
Yep. So there is a little bit of investment. Go buy yourself a set of kitchen scales. But if you see, this is me. After 300, I have a 1,500-day streak. Not now, but I did have a 1,500-day streak on MyFitnessPal. But you get to the point where you can actually look at a handful of almonds and know kind of how much that weighs, if that makes sense. Because you want to learn serving sizes. You want to learn how much 100 grams how 100 grams of rice looks.
Yeah, 100 grams of or a handful, quote unquote, of almonds.
Yeah, exactly. You want to know what 20 grams of peanut butter looks like.
Yeah.
You need to learn these things, because this is what's going to empower you to do what you need to do. Knowledge is power. So yeah, take the knowledge.
Yeah, if you're just going to be counting calories, someone just said, talk to your doctor before starting any diets. If you're just going to be counting calories, it's not really like a huge change. It's probably not something you really need to go and see a doctor about. It's literally just restricting your portion size, which I think everybody could probably benefit from.
Oh, and look, and I'm gonna say this: if you want to just start, don't change your diet.
Yeah.
Just count what you eat.
Yeah.
And you are going to freak yourself the fuck out.
How much you're consuming in a day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because if you're not losing weight right now and you're putting weight on, then it's about the awareness of what you're actually putting into yourself. And once you see what you put into yourself, you can look at that and go, oof, shit. Make sure that you're 100% honest. So that's even drinks. If you grab a couple of cans of soda here and there, put that in.
A lot of what you'll scan as well, like if you have a can of Coke, it has a barcode on it, and the app, you can just scan it straight in.
Yep.
So it's really a lot easier than people think. It seems complicated, like, oh, I have to weigh what I'm doing, but like it honestly doesn't take that much time. And once you start to get a database of what you eat on a daily basis, if you're starting to eat the same stuff, it saves in your app, and you can just go, okay, cool, click, cool, that was my meal, awesome. You could even set, like, if you have the same breakfast every single day, you can set a meal of like, this is my oats with coconut milk and strawberries and blueberries or whatever, and you can set that, and then as long as you're having the same portions every day, you can just go, okay, breakfast from yesterday, add it. Like it gets a lot simpler once you kind of build a bit of a database of what you are consuming. Some things won't be in the app, some things will be in the app, but it's a good place to start. And even myself, like I've gone through different stages of like really closely tracking everything when I was trying to get ready for World Champs, and then I kind of fell off a little bit because I was like not really concerned with my body composition at the time. And then when I started getting a bit lazy, I was like, oh, I should probably start counting again just to see like what point where I'm at kind of thing. And I was like, oh, all right, I'm eating a little bit much, so let's scale it back a little bit. I'm not obsessively counting every single thing because I kind of know my body now. I know my BMR, and I know what I'm consuming and burning on a day for the most part. If I wanted to start cutting, then I'd start tracking it more meticulously, but for right now, I'm just like,
Yeah. The other thing that B-Foot mentions, it's also knowing how much you're expending during a day. Very important.
Yeah.
And what you're going to find, this is why I tell people, if you want to start learning more about your body, don't change anything at the beginning. Just go for 2 or 3 weeks and count everything that goes in. Because if you are weighing yourself, if you're getting a measure on your current weight, and you're doing the same thing over 3 weeks, and you're eating the same amount over 3 weeks, and your weight doesn't change, then that's a very, very good indicator of how much your body actually needs to maintain itself. And that's your number. So you can start with a calculator if you want to learn that stuff. But otherwise, if you just track your own number, that's the best way to know exactly what you burn. So then you can then take 300 calories off a day and you'll lose weight, or put 300 on and you'll gain weight. And it's that simple.
I think it's important as well to highlight, like, it becomes easy to get obsessive about it. And especially when you just start, like, whether it's when you start weightlifting or when you start seeing, weight loss happening, there's a thing called newbie gains. And if you're obese and you're starting from a point of being obese and you start to lose weight, you'll probably see like a good amount, and then you will hit a point where you plateau. And I think it's kind of important to highlight that is going to happen, and kind of preparing for that and understanding why that's going to happen. And also just not, like, my transformation was opposite, so it's kind of different, but like not getting into a point where if if that week you didn't lose 3 kilos like you did the previous week or whatever, don't beat yourself up about that. Like, we are human beings. Our hormones fluctuate as well. Like females, we have a period every single month which send our hormones through the fucking roof. And I know for myself, the first like 2 or 3 days, I am super bloated. My whole like insides just feel like they're being turned inside out, and there's like stabbing me in the fucking ovaries. Like, it's a shit time, and humans all go through different cycles in their bodies and different hormones and different stresses and things like that. So you're going to see fluctuations no matter who you are. And it's just like adapting and, treating your body with respect, and not getting in that mental thing of like, if I don't see the scales dropping, that I'm failing, or getting obsessed with, I'm going to have rock hard 6-packs and things like you see on social media, because it's not. Like, just to throw it out there for those that don't know, like, if you see Henry Cavill in The Witcher with his shirt off, he starved himself and dehydrated for like 3 days prior to that. That's not a sustainable body to live on a daily basis. So don't even put that out there as your goal. Ever. Because it's not a sustainable lifestyle. It looks nice, cool, whatever, but you can't live like that on a daily basis. You will starve.
And a lot of people that do look like that for certain portions of their life, they're cycling. They'll cycle between things back and forth, because it's not good for your hormones to be in those sorts of boundary areas. So depending on your goals, like for me, my transformation was, I was super underweight because I had been in a really toxic relationship, and I was kind of felt like I had to be really skinny. And then I went through trauma and went through a bad breakup, and I just stopped eating and got into a really bad mental state. And then I started doing OCRs and started training with Jeff, and then I put on a bunch of weight. I went from about 46, 47 kilograms. I'm now 72, 73. I don't know, I haven't weighed myself in the last like month or whatever. But yeah, it takes a bit of time if you are coming from a place of being underweight and you want to put on mass and you want to put on muscle. It is kind of weird to get to that point where you're like seeing the scales go up and being happy about it, because we're so influenced by society and social media to be like, I want to lose weight, I want to be skinny, I want to be like sorry, just died. I want to be like petite and feminine for females. And it is a weird mindset as a female, like getting used to seeing the scales go up and seeing, biceps getting bigger and seeing thighs getting bigger and your back getting wider and your waist getting smaller and like that kind of thing, or your waist even getting bigger as your core grows, like the CrossFit cores. Like you see the CrossFit women, they don't have a tiny little skinny waist. They have thick, fucking huge, strong tree trunks. And that's cool. Like going back to the book, the idea of the perfect female body, like a big butt, big boobs, and a tiny waist, it's not a sustainable body. If you want to be like strong and capable, like your core is going to be thick and strong. It's not going to be like this tiny little like pole. Yeah.
It's not. Yeah. It's not healthy.
Yeah, and again, that's come from the way that people have been brought up. Because I know the Mr. Universe competition. So when Arnie was doing it, they would judge the size of the waist versus the size of the shoulders there. So it's come from weird ideas,
Yeah.
which actually dates back to ancient Rome stuff. They use the golden ratio for certain things, and again the idea of beauty. So yeah.
Yeah, Baron Blackburn said Captain America, Superman, the Castle 300, all of them had teams behind them forming the body and were only able to sustain them for a few days to a week. Yeah, exactly. Like they've got an entire team. Like when Batman cut for the mechanic.
What's
it? Christian Bale.
Christian Bale.
When if you guys have seen the mechanic, his body, I honestly thought was CGI because it was so frail and so like internally rotated and skinny and like thin and just horrifying that I actually thought it was CGI. But he went through that transformation, going from Batman and being to like strong to being this frail human being. And
I think it was the other way around. I think he was the mechanic
opposite
first, and then bulked up for Batman. But even before the mechanic, he wasn't a skinny dude. Yeah.
But of course, he's in Hollywood. He's got a team around him, making sure that he is okay, like getting that all done in a safe, controlled environment. So like that was freaking crazy. I can't believe that was actually his body. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's okay to see people like celebrities and whatnot and be like, wow, their bodies are amazing. But understand that it's not for normal people like us that, you know, aren't earning millions of dollars and don't have a PT on hand at all times and don't have chefs cooking for us every single day. These are things we have to take control of ourselves. And if it comes down to just, you know, installing an app on your phone, scanning in some things and just gaining an understanding and knowledge base of what you are consuming in a day and understanding how to take that on without obsessing about it, without, you know, if you're slightly over for the day, but you haven't had dinner and you're hungry, eat dinner.
Yeah.
Like, don't starve yourself because you're over for the day. Take it into account, figure out where you may have eaten something that was maybe a little dense in calories and take that into the knowledge of next week and be like, okay, so instead of having this, you know, this date bar that had like 700 calories in it, I can better spend that in making, you know, like a steak and a salad with like a side of, I don't know, pasta or something. Like,
yeah, and that's where it can become a bit more advanced. But hopefully by that time you actually start thinking more about, or by that time you're that advanced in counting your calories that you can say, hey, look, on the day that I actually had a peanut butter bagel in the morning, I felt more full for the rest of the day, as opposed to the day that I had Fruit Loops. So you start to think about, okay, maybe the macro makeup is going to change some things. So there's that side of the coin, but the other side of the coin is also thinking like, you know what, if I don't eat now, am I going to die?
Probably not.
Probably not because
unless it's been like 7 days.
Yeah, because you still might be a point where ghrelin, which is the hunger hormone, still hasn't been kicked in the guts properly to actually reset itself, and it's telling you lies. So sometimes when people say, oh, just listen to your body, sometimes your body doesn't know the best for you. Sometimes you're actually saying, oh, you need another cigarette because you're addicted. Like, that's not the best thing for you.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the sugar addictions that are kicking in.
Or it could just be boredom.
Yep.
Like, I know for
absolutely.
me, like on days where I don't stream, like on days that I stream, I can stream from 9 a.m. till 5 o'clock and barely think about food because I'm on and I've got chat and I'm busy and I'm playing games and my mind is not focused on, oh, my tummy's like a little bit hungry. But on a day where I don't stream and I'm sitting and the fridge is right there, I'm probably going to snack way more because I'm not occupied. I don't have, you know, other things to focus on. And I think it's probably something that a lot of people experienced a lot worse with isolation because they're working from home and their fridge is right there and it's very easy to go up and grab a snack because they don't have, you know, the boss hovering over them being like, why are you getting up every 5 seconds to go to the fridge? Like, I definitely think it's something that would have been more obvious to people. Again, people have probably started overeating a lot more working from home.
It's definitely a first world problem too.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like having an abundance of
It's
food
a privilege to
around us.
have a stocked fridge that you can become obese by eating because you've got an abundance.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, it's all about preparation. So if you are prepared for this, then you won't have an abundance of food or you won't have the wrong types of food.
Don't go to the supermarket when you're hungry. You'll make poor choices.
Yeah.
Or better yet, do it online.
Yep. And if you've done the prep work, then you know what? Maybe my meals are all frozen, so I can't go eat all of these ones right now, kind of thing. So it's you got to set yourself up.
Yeah.
You got to set yourself up for this
preparation
journey because
is
it's not
key,
just going to
for
happen.
Sure.
Yep.
Will said, it's interesting about those internal hunger cues. Some researchers suggest that parents telling their kids to finish their plates trains them out of those cues and might be a factor for unhealthy eating behaviors.
Yeah.
I remember
so
that. I was never allowed to
yeah.
leave the table unless I ate everything on my plate. And I'd be like, I'm full. I don't want any more. I'd be like, eat it. And you don't get to watch TV until it's eaten.
You know where that came from, though?
TV?
Right? Nope. So that was during the Depression.
Okay.
When, you know what? The parents only had a certain amount of dollars to buy food with.
Yeah.
So if the kids are not going to eat it, that's really bad.
Blasphemy.
Like we spend our money on that. So eat it, get your calories in, because we might not eat for a week.
Yeah.
So that's where that came from, and
so
unfortunately, it's just been pushed through. And again, because people were raised that way, they then just treat their kids like that as well. And so it's just been a behavior that's been passed on and passed on and passed on. So yeah, it's
Boomers ruin everything.
that was before. That was pre-boomers.
Yeah, Arugu, I'm the same. Arugu, when they get emotional, they can't eat. I'm the same. Like that's a big reason why when I went through trauma, I wasn't eating, and it wasn't, I feel like in my head, it wasn't because I wanted to be skinny or underweight or anything. It's because I literally just felt so sick in my stomach that I couldn't stomach food, because when I tried to eat, I just felt worse. So I just wouldn't eat at all. And I mean, I don't know. I never went and got diagnosed. I don't know if it was an eating disorder necessarily. It was like a stressful, traumatic period of my life that I came out of. It could have been an eating disorder. I don't really know the specifics of an eating disorder. I never vomited my food up. That's bulimia, right? When you
yes
vomit it. I never did that. I just, in a day, I'd probably consume, like, I remember I used to have those little Chobani yogurts. I'd have like one of those and like some granola and like maybe a piece of fruit, and that was my whole day of food. Like, it would have been under 1,000 calories. I just didn't feel hungry. I just felt sick to my stomach, and I would just cry all day. Like, I just hated, like, it was just a bad time. I'd stream, and in a second I hit stop streaming, I'd just bawl my eyes out and roll into a ball and just be like,
Which, I mean, if we were to unpack that, and it could be for another day, another discussion, but I mean, that could literally have been the psychological trauma from the relationship you were in, where it may have been feeling like, you know what, my partner wanted this of me, and they don't want me now because I'm not this, and so I need to do these things to win them back. So
totally.
It could have been that, because for me, when I was younger, I would absolutely take comfort in one of those rice crackers covered in peanut butter, and that was just me. So anything that pissed me off, if I was stressed about something, if I was anxious about something, I'd literally go to, back in those days, Bilo was still a supermarket, so I'd go to Bilo and I'd go get a packet of rice crackers, Rice Crisp things, and a tub of peanut butter, and I would smash that, and I would do that so often. So I think it was a psychological learned thing where that gave me comfort, and that was just a thing. So yeah,
it's hard. I mean, I was pretty lucky growing up. My mum was very, like, I mean, now that I know more about, like, psychology, I suppose, like, my mum, even now, she's so petite and so small, and she's like, oh, I need to lose weight, and I'm like, Mum, you're fucking like 50 kilograms, shut up, what is wrong with you? Like, she's just, I don't know, she's got this thing about always wanting to lose weight. And I feel like as a kid, like, she's always been very health aware, so she'd always make us, like, vegetable and salad sandwiches and stuff, and I'd be like, but I want Nutella. God damn it, Mom, you're such a bitch. How dare you give me salad sandwiches, you fucking heathen. And I'd swap it with my friends at school. I'd be like, yo, give me that Nutella. But yeah, I was pretty lucky growing up. Like, my mom always made, like, lots of good meals with a bunch of veggies and a bunch of mince, and like good, she made like this goulash thing that we had all the friggin' time, and it was always like lots of vegetables and lots of like good quality meats and stuff like that. So I was like pretty lucky growing up. When I became a student, obviously we've all kind of been there. If you've been a student, you've got no money, you're just having like pasta every fucking night and just eating like mee goreng and just the shit of the shit. But I think it's so surprising to me, even today, Jeff, like when you were streaming this morning, someone's like, oh, like, so if I want to lose weight, can I not eat steak? And it's like I don't know if they were serious questions, but assuming that they were, like, it's pretty baffling to me, because to us, having been, self-conscious and aware of what we're putting into our bodies, because ultimately what you're putting into your body is fuel. Like, our bodies are a machine, and what we put into it is what fuels it and helps it maintain itself on a daily basis. But so many people just don't get it. Like, so many people don't understand that eating McDonald's every day is not sustainable, and you're going to feel like shit. Like, if you're not sleeping properly, and if you're not eating well, and if you're not actually moving your body, if you're sitting around, like, slouching and playing games and being internally rotated and not doing anything and eating shit and getting out of bed late and not seeing the sun, you surprised that you're depressed? Yeah. Like, your body is craving to live properly.
To live properly, and it's the education on what is proper and what we're conditioned to. Because the other thing that same person said this morning was something along the lines of, if I lose weight, I can't eat good food. And I was like, hold up. So
they meant junk, I guess.
Yeah. Do you mean
yummy
junk food? Yeah. So there was just this really poor misconception of what good was. So that's another thing that needs exposure, needs better marketing, needs better education on what good actually is. I mean, it's funny you mentioned that you'd go to school wanting Nutella. I remember in my school we had a less snack black market. So
God, I love the snacks.
Yeah, everyone would be swapping and changing the snacks there. So yeah. But yeah, so I suppose the moral of the story here is that diet, as it is understood now, we need to take back the definition of diet to basically mean everything that you put into your daily nutrition.
Yeah.
And
we need to come up with like a good like, what is it when it's called, like the diet, DIET? We need to come up with like
a good acronym.
Yeah.
Acronym?
We need to make diet like a positive acronym.
Okay, that's my homework.
That's your homework. Yeah. Will, get on it.
Will, we need some sort of punny acronym. So yeah. But yeah, the
daily intake energy. Chair. Daily intake of energy. Chair.
Template or
chair. Shit. Yeah.
That one. So
nailed it.
Nailed it. And today, what it's about, if you want to start taking a real good look at your diet and potentially changing your diet to work in one direction, you need to be looking at exactly what you're on right now. So you can't change what you don't understand. So I want everyone, if you want to be on a new diet and you've got curiosity about going on to some other diet because you think it's what you need, take a good look at what you're doing now, count your calories, and just take a good snapshot of what you're doing right now and why that is or isn't working for you.
And also, like, ask questions. Yeah. Like, we have so many people with different knowledge bases in the Discord. And I feel like it's something that people have been shamed for a lot, is just, people be like, oh, that's a stupid question or whatever. If you're genuine in asking a question, if you're genuinely like, hey, I don't know if this is good for me, ask us. Like, we are here to help you. And Jeff, hopefully, over the next year or so, hopefully we can find some time and some money to get Jeff qualified so he can actually give you guys meal plans. But don't be afraid to ask questions. Like, this, my community and the FitForPurpose community is like super welcoming and super like friendly in terms of people asking questions. Like, there are silly questions like, hey Strabba, you want to go on a date? But like, if you're actually asking a genuine question, just ask it in the Discord, please. Like, we would love to help you out.
So I
daily
pasted into your
intake,
chat.
Energy tracking, don't instigate eating trends. Ooh,
I really like B-foots. I like B-foots.
I like it.
Don't instigate eating trends. I think B-foot wins that one.
Give him some points to murder us with burpees.
I'm gonna points add B-foot 1,000.
That's amazing. So good.
Go. Nice.
But yeah, it's Food isn't the enemy, and healthy food does not have to taste shit. Like, I think a lot of people think because something's good for you, it's going to taste like grass. Like, that's absolutely not the case. If you know what you're doing with spices and herbs and things and fresh ingredients, you can make healthy, quote unquote, food taste really bloody good.
And sometimes it actually takes conditioning. you've been conditioned to like the wrong things.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
You absolutely
sugar
can
is like
yourself.
a huge addiction,
Yeah.
like for a lot of people, and it takes
That's where
time.
a lot of people, and a lot of people, I really, really, really don't like the term "listen to your body" in certain instances, because sometimes your body just doesn't know what it needs. So you sometimes need to have that outside help with knowing what's right and what's wrong. Because over time, if you are eating the right things, you are actually going to really start to enjoy those.
I think you mentioned it this morning too, like when you start to wean off sugar and not having processed shit, like the taste of a strawberry
It's so
when
good.
you're not like eating tons of sugar is like unbelievably sweet. Like it's freaking ridiculous how sweet a strawberry is when you're not drinking, 2 liters of Coke every day. It's madness. So crazy.
Oh man. So good. So good. Nice. I think that's all I really wanted to say on that topic. If you do want to discuss a bit more, like Grace said, I'm not 100% qualified as a nutritionist to give out meal plans. I can speak on the things that are within my scope as a personal trainer. I do want to look seriously at getting the nutrition qualified stuff so that I can actually talk, because I know a lot of it. I'm just not going to be unethical enough to talk about it and pass that out. So you can jump into either of our Discords. I'm quite prevalent in both.
Wheat Bix tastes like cardboard no matter how healthy you are. On their own, I used to think that Wheat Bix were like the holy grail of health, and I'd have like 6 in the morning and I'd be like, why am I putting weight on? It's like, if you have 6 Wheat Bix and you have honey dumped on it and you have a banana on top, do you know how many calories that is? With like milk on it as well. Like I didn't know for a long time that I can consume dairy without feeling like garbage. I didn't pinpoint it down to dairy for a long time. And why am I fat? Because I was kind of like, I wasn't fat necessarily. I was a little overweight when I was in like high school. I think most people probably struggle with weight either up and down when they were in high school. But yeah, I used to eat so many Wheat Bix and I'd be like, well, why am I putting weight on? Hello. It's like 12 calories just there. And then I'd have like a milk and a paddle pop for recess. So much dairy and so much sugar and fat.
Yeah, and just the carbs, so you're just retaining water as well.
Yeah, so bad. Crazy.
Crazy. Awesome.
Interesting.
So, I think we've covered quite a bit today.
Yeah, I think I'm really glad that we ended up talking about the book, and I'm glad that you got through it. And we spoke a little bit obviously offline before coming on stream about how we were going to approach this topic, because it is a bit of a chewy one, like we mentioned. I was kind of worried because you kind of said like you have some really strong things, and I was like, are we going to butt heads? But I didn't. I feel like we're pretty on.
Like, I mean, a lot of the stuff that I could arc up about, I think would be nitpicking. I really do think it would be. Because if I step back and just think about this as someone's opinion, and I think a lot of it was me assuming that she's putting this out there because this is her new law and this is the new regime and this is what we all need to do. If you look at it that way, then there's some stuff there which I would be like, screw you, I'm not doing any of that, because I think you're wrong. And that's just me. But when we look at it as ideas and ways that we can be more conscious of how we think about things in life, then cool, I'm taking this on board. Yep.
Yeah, I'm glad we touched it. It was hard, but I think ultimately it was a good discussion. And I mean, I don't think anybody that really needs to hear it is going to be seeking this content, because my community and FFP's community has been curated to not be misogynistic, I guess.
Pretty much, yeah.
So I mean, I don't really think we're going to change the world, but I think it's definitely good to have the conversation and to have the open platform to have the conversation, because even if it makes, one person have a think about it, then that's great. And I think even just, getting off my chest, even because it is something that I do have to face on a daily basis, being a person on the internet, and it is something that really grinds my gears a lot. And I feel like I do have to just not talk about it, because people are like, oh, here she goes again, complaining about being a woman, blah, blah. It's like, it pisses me off every day. And it was nice to just kind of have a bit of a vent and have a bit of a rant about it.
Absolutely.
Because it's annoying.
Yeah, and like you said, like we may not fix the world, but bad things happen when good people do nothing. So
yeah, for sure. And if it
can
just
do some things,
and if it makes a couple people listen to it and maybe change their perspective, or at least at the very least allow them to understand their privilege and checking their privilege as well, and being more open to addressing people by their preferred pronouns or things like that. There's so much. Yep. There's so much in that book that we spoke about it for what, like an hour.
Oh, we spoke a lot. Yeah.
We didn't even we could have probably gone into a lot more detail, but at the same time, we want to make it digestible. So the book, for me, I listened to it on 1.3 times. It was enough so that she didn't sound like a chipmunk, but it got me through in I think the book's like 4.5. I think it got me through in just over 3.
I should mention it's quite a short book. Most of the audiobooks I get through are around 7 to 8 hours as a medium. So this was quite short. So it's very, very easy to consume. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's pretty much gonna put a wrap up on the episode 3 of Pipe Up. We are going to call the talk show part here, and we're going to move on to play We Were Here Together. So if you are here watching on Twitch, stick around, we're going to play a game. If you are listening on the wide variety of different audio streams on Stitcher or Spotify or Google or what else is there? There's a bunch.
There's a whole bunch.
I hope you enjoyed. Is there anything you'd like to add, Jeff?
No, I just want to thank everyone for listening. Yep. I want to thank everyone for I suppose I should call it the pre-feedback when they heard that we were going to be talking about this sort of book. There was a lot of people that did let us know that they were quite excited to hear from us about it. Sure. So I do want to thank people for that, because it does make, like I said, if I knew, if I wasn't reviewing it, if there weren't people there relying for my feedback, I don't think I would have been able to get through certain portions of that book, but I'm glad I did. So yeah.
Yeah, agreed. Yes, we are on Apple Podcasts. So if you do happen to listen on any of the platforms that have a little section where you can leave a review, please do. It really helps out a lot. It helps let other people know that aren't familiar with us from either platforms. I think we're trying to be very mindful of making it an audio only experience for people. And if you can leave a little review, give it your opinion. It doesn't have to be 5-star. Just rate it however you like. And that feedback is amazing. And if you have any feedback for us in the future of how we can make it more digestible in whatever way, please let us know. But
absolutely,
thank you so much for listening. If you're listening, thank you so much for watching. If you're watching either on Twitch or YouTube, and we'll see you in the next one.